Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Fiona Jeet.
And I'm Carrie Dunst.
Vice President Kamala Harris is heading to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania this afternoon, where she's expected to talk about American manufacturing.
And former President Donald Trump speaks in Mint Hill, North Carolina on manufacturing and the economy. Both are crucial battleground states.
A bipartisan report released today highlights multiple Secret Service failures leading up to the Trump assassination attempt in Pennsylvania.
Helene is strengthening into a Category 1 hurricane as it nears Florida. More updates on what may become the strongest storm to hit the U.S. in over a year.
New York City Schools Chief David Banks says that he is retiring. This as federal investigations into New York City Mayor Eric Adams' administration continue.
China fired an intercontinental ballistic missile into the Pacific Ocean, its first such test in 4 decades. That as the United Nations General Assembly was underway in New York.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump is in Mint Hill, North Carolina today.
He's discussing his policy proposals to bring jobs back to America. Let's tune in.
Look at the war in Ukraine, and I think it's something we have to have a quick discussion about because the president of Ukraine is in our country, and he's making little nasty aspersions toward your favorite president, me. But take a look at the war happening right now in Ukraine. It would have never happened if I were president to start off with. And there didn't even have to be a settlement. It wouldn't have happened, period. Russia wouldn't have gone in. I spoke to Putin about it a lot. I got along very well with Putin. I spoke to him a lot. You know, I was the one that ended the pipeline, Nord Stream 2, in Europe going to Germany. And he said that was a bad thing. That was the biggest job. Then they say how nice I was to Russia. No, I wasn't nice, but we got along. We had a good relationship, which is a good thing, not a bad thing. But what's happening in Ukraine is a very serious matter. Let's say we did settle, and a deal would have been made with Russia years ago, 3 years ago, before it all began. And we could have made a deal easily. Could have made it easily. If we had a president who was intelligent, we could have made a deal easily. But what do you have left now, right? 3 years of horrible fighting. The country is absolutely obliterated. Millions and millions of people, including all of these great soldiers, they're dead. Those gorgeous buildings with golden towers are demolished and laying broken on their side. And you'll never see that kind of a town or city again. Can never be duplicated. They're all demolished other than Kiev. You'll never be able to rebuild the cities or towns the way they are. Impossible to do. They were thousands of years old. And just think about it. Just 3 years ago, you had a beautiful civilization. Millions of people that were living that are now not with us any longer. Magnificent towns and cities that were so beautiful could never be reconstructed, other than Kiev, which is actually starting to be hit right now. He wanted to save that. Most of the country is gone. The heritage is gone. So many people are dead. Many people have left for Poland, for Hungary, and for other places, never to return. And that includes many, many Russian soldiers are dead. A deal could have been made. There wouldn't have been one person that died, and there wouldn't have been one golden tower laying shattered on its side. A deal could have been made if we had a competent president instead of a president that egged it all on. And Biden and Kamala allowed this to happen by feeding Zelensky money and munitions like no country has ever seen before. Every time he came to our country, he'd walk away with $60 billion. He's probably the greatest salesman on earth. But now Ukraine is running out of soldiers. They're using young children and old men because their soldiers are dying and other things are happening to them that we won't even discuss. So many are badly injured. And what do you have? What deal can we make? What deal can we make? It's demolished. The people are dead. The country is in rubble. And who are these people that allowed this to happen? Who are these people? I said, don't let it happen. This never happened in my 4 years. I told President Putin, you're not going to do it. He would never have done it. They started to form after I left. And I actually thought they were forming as a negotiating tactic for Putin. I thought it was a negotiation. But through a lot of bad statements and stupid statements, he went in. And he's no angel. It's all such a horror. Biden and Harris caused this situation by the stupidity of what they said, by every move they make. But they caused the situation, and now they're locked in. They're locked in. I watched this poor guy yesterday at the United Nations. He didn't know what he was saying. They just don't know what to do. They're locked into a situation. It's sad. They just don't know what to do because Ukraine is gone. It's not Ukraine anymore. You can never replace those cities and towns, and you can never replace the dead people, so many dead people. Any deal, even the worst deal, would have been better than what we have right now. If they made a bad deal, it would have been much better. They would have given up a little bit, and everybody would be living, and every building would be built, and every tower would be aging for another 2,000 years. And it will only get worse with these people. With Kamala she doesn't know what she's doing. More people will die. More cities will fall. The ones that fell will continue to receive more and more bombs. They'll be broken up asunder, worse than they are right now. Nothing is standing. The crops are dying. There's really nothing for the Ukrainian people to move back to. And it didn't need to happen. Those buildings are down. Those cities are gone. They're gone. And we continue to give billions of dollars to a man who refuses to make a deal, Zelensky. There was no deal that he could have made that wouldn't have been better than the situation you have right now. You have a country that has been obliterated, not possible to be rebuilt. It'll take hundreds of years to rebuild it. There's not enough money to rebuild it if the whole world got together. They're not going to be satisfied until they send American kids over to Ukraine, and that's what they're trying to do. And the moms and dads of America don't want their kids fighting Ukraine and Russia, and we're not going to have our soldiers die across the ocean. I will restore, as I did for 4 years, the only president in 81 years, they say, no wars. Hillary Clinton said, look at him, look at him. He'll immediately start wars. No. Then she said, look at his rhetoric. He's going to start wars. I said, no, my rhetoric is going to keep us out of wars. And that's what happened. I kept you out of wars. My rhetoric kept you out of wars. I stopped wars from happening. If it were somebody else, they would have gotten 5 Nobel Prizes. I never even got a mention, and I wouldn't, because I happen to be a different kind of a person, and the fake news treats me much differently than they treat other people. Obama got a Nobel Peace Prize, and he didn't even do it. He said, why did I get it? He had no idea. It was immediate as soon as he walked into office, practically. He didn't do anything. What I've done is incredible. The Abraham Accords alone, incredible. but they haven't done anything with it. We would have had every country just about in the Middle East signed into the Abraham Accords, but the Abraham Accords brought peace. We would have had total peace in the Middle East. But I don't care about that with the Nobel Prize. I had so many people, you should get the Nobel Prize. I said, don't worry about it. They don't get the Nobel Prize to certain people. But these are the people that get things done. These are the people that understand strength and they understand peace, because we will restore peace through strength. We will rebuild our cities, including Washington, D.C., making them safe, clean, and beautiful again. We will keep the U.S. dollar as the world's reserve currency. This is how we will end the era of inflation, mayhem, and misery under Kamala and Crooked Joe, and unleash safety, prosperity, and peace for Americans of every race, religion, color, and creed. We're going to do things for our people that haven't been done for a very long time. And we started 4 years ago. We were doing things that nobody ever believed, jobs. And we had the greatest economy in the history of our country 4 years ago, 7 years ago, 6 years ago, and 5 years ago. Together, we will deliver low taxes, low regulations, low energy costs, low interest rates, low inflation, so that everyone can afford groceries, a car, and a home, the American dream. We will stop the invasion and end migrant crime, support our great police, strengthen our military, build a missile defense shield over our country, keep critical race theory and transgender insanity the hell out of our schools, and we will keep men out of women's sports. We will defend the Second Amendment, restore free speech, and we will secure are under siege. Everyone will prosper, every family will thrive, and every day will be filled with opportunity and with hope. But for that to happen, we must defeat Kamala Harris, and we must stop her country-destroying liberal agenda once and for all. It has to end. We have to bring our country and take our country back. So get everyone you know and vote. We want a landslide that's too big to rig. Very simple. Too big to rig. On November 5th, we will save our economy. We will save our country. It will go down as the most important day in the history of our country. We will rescue our middle class. We will reclaim our sovereignty and restore our borders. We will put America first all the time, and we will take our country back. North Carolina, get out to vote. Thank you. God bless you. And God bless America. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Okay, so that there was former President Trump in Mint Hill, North Carolina, a swing state. We tuned in right when he was talking about the Ukraine-Russia war, talking about how if he had been president, the war never would have started. But really the theme of this rally today was more about economy and manufacturing.
That's right. He indeed, with the UN Security Council yesterday and Zelensky speaking, he did seem to focus in on being locked into a situation and not being able to get out of it, stating that there's really no goal or end in sight, which is certainly a contrast to what's coming out of the other side, where they feel that the objectives of the war are winnable. So
that's right, and really wrap the speech up there with some main talking points, keeping the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency, helping Americans achieve the American dream. Lots of talking points there.
Indeed.
All right, moving on. A bipartisan Senate committee has revealed its report on the first Trump assassination attempt. It has a lot of details. It details lapses in preparation and communication the day former President Trump was shot.
The report called multiple Secret Service failures foreseeable and preventable.
The report found multiple failures on almost every level ahead of the Butler, Pennsylvania shooting. That includes planning, communications, security, and allocation of resources. Investigators found that there was no clear chain of command among the Secret Service and other security agencies, and no plan for coverage of the building where the shooter climbed up to fire the shots. Officials were also operating on multiple separate radio channels, leading to missed communications. The report says the Secret Service was notified about someone on the roof around 2 minutes before the shooter opened fire. A local officer also sent a radio alert that there was an armed individual on the building about 22 seconds before the shots were fired. This is according to that report, but that information was not relayed to Secret Service personnel. The report also says that a Secret Service counter-sniper reported seeing officers with their guns drawn. They were running toward the building where the shooter was perched, but no one attempted to get Trump off the stage.
The Senate report comes shortly after the Secret Service released a summary of its preliminary findings. A House task force will hold a hearing investigating the incidents tomorrow. The senators recommend that the Secret Service better define roles and responsibilities before any protective event. They want the agency to designate a single individual in charge of approving all security plans. Investigators found that many in charge denied they had responsibility for planning or security failures and deflected blame. In a statement today, a Secret Service spokesman said the agency had already implemented some of the committee's suggestions. He said the agency has raised Trump's security to the highest level the Secret Service can provide.
A federal grand jury in Miami has indicted Ryan Wesley Ruth for the attempted assassination of the former president.
NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on this case and alleged threats from Iran against Trump.
The alleged attempt occurred on September 15th at Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach, Florida. FBI Director Christopher Wray stated, "The attempted assassination of a presidential candidate strikes at the very heart of the American democratic system." FBI agents say they found documents in Ruth's possession, including a handwritten note. The note read, "This was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump, but I am so sorry I failed you." Cell phone records also show Ruth accessed towers near Trump's locations multiple times prior to the incident. He faces serious charges, including attempted assassination and possession of a firearm during a violent crime. Ruth remains in federal custody pending trial, with the possibility of facing life in prison if convicted. In related news, Trump's campaign reported that he was briefed yesterday on alleged assassination threats from Iran. A campaign statement said he received this briefing from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Intelligence officials, according to the campaign, indicated that Iranian threats have heightened in the past few months. Trump later stated on his Truth Social account that there are big threats to his life from Iran, noting that while previous attempts have failed, they will try again. A government spokesperson confirmed the briefing, but declined to provide specifics. Iran has denied U.S. claims of interference in American affairs. In light of these threats, the Senate has unanimously passed the Enhanced Presidential Security Act. The act aims to increase Secret Service protection for presidential and vice presidential candidates. Approved by the House on September 20th, the bill is now set to be signed into law by President Joe Biden. Representative Mike Lawler, who sponsored the bill, emphasized the need for robust security, stating, "History has shown that assassinations can massively disrupt our nation's political system." Senator Rick Scott, who championed the bill, added,
"Passing the Enhanced Presidential Security Act today with the unanimous consent of the Senate sends an important message to the American public and the world that we will not ignore these threats, which are truly an attack on our democratic process and have rightly shocked the world."
The bill does not allocate new funding, but a pending spending package may provide the Secret Service with over $230 million for protective operations. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Police are investigating gunfire damage at Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign office in Tempe, Arizona. Fortunately, no one was inside during the incident. The damage occurred just days before Harris's planned visit to the state. Tempe police reported finding bullet holes in the front windows of the office. The incident raises concerns about the safety of staff in the building. The Arizona Democratic Party and other campaigns are also housed there. The damage was discovered on Monday, and this marks the second act of vandalism at the office in recent weeks. A previous incident involved BB or pellet gun damage to the windows. Vice President Harris and former President Trump will each participate in separate town halls hosted by Univision in October.
That's right. Trump's event will be held on October 8th in Miami. Harris will appear on October 10th in Las Vegas. The town halls will feature questions from undecided Hispanic voters and air at 10 p.m. with Spanish translation.
Harris will skip the Al Smith charity dinner this year. This move breaks a tradition that dates back to 1960. A Harris campaign official says that she'll be focusing on key battleground states instead.
Former President Donald Trump confirmed he will attend the event on October 17th. It's a major fundraiser for the Catholic Archdiocese of New York. It has come to symbolize underlying unity and putting aside political differences.
In less than a week, vice presidential candidates Tim Walz and J.D. Vance will debate right here in New York City. NTD will have on-the-ground coverage, in-depth analysis, and a lot more prepared for you during both our pre- and post-debate show on The Nation Decides 2024, presented by our very own Steve Lance and Tiffany Meyer. Watch it next Tuesday, October 1st at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Nebraska Governor Jim Pillen has announced he will not call a special session to change the state's electoral voting system. The decision halts efforts to implement a winner-take-all system before the presidential election. Pillen failed to secure the needed 33 votes in the legislature. State Senator Mike McDonald's refusal to support the proposal played a key role in the setback. McConnell said the current system allows for all voters to have a voice in Nebraska's unique electoral approach and allocates votes by congressional district. The state remains a critical battleground as the election nears. That particularly applies to the 2nd district. Both President Biden and former President Obama won the district during their elections.
An appeals court in Pennsylvania has backed a lower court ruling on voting policy in Washington County. This is after a Washington County judge ruled on mail-in ballots last month, where he decided the county must tell voters if their mail-in ballots have been counted or rejected. The county judge said that's so voters have an opportunity to challenge alleged defects. He also ruled that voters can cast provisional ballots. Washington County officials appealed that ruling. A group of county voters brought the case, and county officials said notifying all voters about rejected mail-in ballots would be too much of a burden. The state appeals court upheld the county judge's decision in a 2-1 ruling yesterday. Up next, Helene is strengthening into a Category 1 hurricane as it nears Florida. More updates on what may become the strongest storm to hit the U.S. in over a year. Find out more about that after this break.
They fill in for the president when they're called upon.
We need a leader who fights for the people who built this country.
A debate between candidates for second in command.
Let's chart that new way forward. Let's do it because we believe in the promise of America.
Watch our live pre- and post-debate coverage of the vice presidential debate with Steve Lance and Tiffany Meyer on The Nation Decides, Tuesday, October 1st at 8 p.m. Eastern on NTD News.
Water, nature's ultimate cleaner. We drink it, we bathe in it. Think water, think steam, think clean. Now harness the power of water with the H2O X5 5-in-1 steam cleaning system.
I'm so impressed with the X5. It's an all-in-one product. I can use it throughout my entire house.
It's cleaning, it's sanitizing, there's no chemicals in it. It's just steam.
This is unbelievable. There is no more odor.
You could spend over $500 to purchase the products that the X5 5-in-1 Miracle replaces. Order your H2O X5 steam cleaning system, a $500 value, for just 4 easy payments of $43. Order now and we'll upgrade your X5 package. We'll add a 6th mode with a dusting and polishing wand. Valued at over $30, this extra bonus attachment makes your H2O X5 the H2O X6. That means your 10-piece system becomes a 12-piece system at no extra cost to you. All for just 3 easy payments of $43. Call or click right now.
This is such a gentle painting, so beautifully portrayed. A group of people reading together in this simple, everyday-looking living room. A young girl reading along with an adult, a grandparent sitting in the lotus position, a businessman in his typical suit.
You see all those people, they look like they have quietly settled down there. And you as a viewer, it looks like you've just stepped in the door.
You can't see what it is they're reading, so you're a little bit curious and you're kind of invited to walk in.
This harmonious feeling is not by accident. It is the very subject of the work. The book they are reading is the main text of Falun Gong, which is an ancient Chinese spiritual discipline in the Buddhist tradition. At the core of Falun Gong are the values of truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance. Unfortunately, the practice is banned in China, where the artist resides. Thousands have been killed for their faith. Golden energy blooms into the room as a result of their steadfast faith. The painting on the back wall reminds us of this work's title, Plum Blossoms in a Muddy World.
It's also a metaphor for the practitioners that are sitting in the room as plum blossoms.
They signify perseverance and hope that all brutal winters end and life is renewed once again.
The magical painting.
Welcome back. Thousands of Florida residents are evacuating as the state prepares for Helene.
It became a Category 1 hurricane today and is expected to hit Florida's Gulf Coast late tomorrow.
It is likely to be the strongest storm to hit the U.S. in over a year. Helene has been strengthening at a high speed since forming in the northwestern Caribbean Sea Tuesday morning.
A flood watch was issued for more than 20 million people from Florida through the southern Appalachians. The Big Bend area could also face life-threatening storm surge of up to 15 feet. New York City Schools Chancellor David Banks says he's retiring. His announcement comes during a series of federal investigations into New York City Mayor Eric Adams' administration. Adams appointed Banks roughly 2 years ago to lead the city's public school system. Federal investigators raided the school chancellor's home earlier this month and seized his phones. Banks says he'll resign at the end of this year. He's the fourth high-ranking New York City official to step down this month. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has the update on investigations into Banks and Mayor Adams' administration.
Banks' planned retirement makes him the fourth high-ranking New York City official to resign this month. He thanked New York City Mayor Eric Adams for the opportunity to serve as chancellor and said he's immensely proud of the progress they made. Banks touted his signature policies in his resignation, like his role in changing how the city's roughly 900,000 students are taught to read. He wrote he has every confidence the work with Adams will continue to thrive and benefit generations to come. Mayor Adams says he is immensely grateful and proud of the work accomplished together. Banks' announcement comes a day after the city's health commissioner, Dr. Ashwin Vasan, said he was stepping down. Vasan says he's resigning for personal and family reasons. This after Chief Counsel Lisa Zornberg and NYPD Commissioner Edward Caban left their roles roughly 2 weeks ago. At least 4 federal investigations are underway into Adams' inner circle. Investigations include one involving Banks and his brothers. The FBI seized Banks' phones and other devices during a search of his home. The FBI confiscated the devices of his partner, Deputy Mayor Sheena Wright. FBI agents also seized devices from Banks' 2 brothers, Deputy Mayor Phil Banks, a former NYPD ranking officer, and Terrence Banks, a retired MTA supervisor who runs a lobbying firm. None have been accused of any wrongdoing as of now. Federal prosecutors are separately investigating Adams' 2021 campaign finances. The FBI has not made details of that investigation public. Banks' retirement starts December 31st. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
The Federal Aviation Administration is investigating an incident where 2 passengers were injured on a United Airlines flight. It took place last week after a collision warning went off. The flight was 31,000 feet after departing from Newark Airport when the pilots received an alert on the plane's collision avoidance system. Those advisories are treated as extreme warnings of a possible collision, and the pilots are required to act immediately in these situations. Flight data showed 2 other flights were within 3,000 feet below the United aircraft. 1 passenger was badly hurt and another sustained minor injuries. United says the seatbelt sign was on at the time and one of the passengers was out of their seat. The National Transportation Safety Board also says it is gathering information on this incident.
Another house has collapsed into the ocean in the community of Rodanthe, North Carolina. It's the 3rd one this week as rough seas lash the shoreline. Residents were shaken after the house was pulled down by the surf yesterday. A video shows the structure swaying on its stilts before crashing down. Cape Hatteras closed the beach around the area due to the debris from the fallen structure. Officials confirm the house was unoccupied when it collapsed and no one was hurt. They advise swimmers and surfers to stay out of the water until the debris is cleared. The collapse is the 3rd on the Cape Hatteras National Seashore this week and the 10th in the last 4 years.
Residents in Ohio near Cincinnati were asked to evacuate after a chemical started to leak from a rail car yesterday. Authorities say a pressure release valve was leaking styrene. Styrene is a toxic and flammable chemical used to make plastic and rubber. It can cause headaches, nausea, and respiratory issues. Long-term exposure can lead to more serious problems like organ damage. The county's emergency agency told anyone within a half-mile of the area to leave immediately. The leaking train car was near U.S. Route 50 and the Great Miami River. A railroad official says the rail car has stopped leaking and has been removed. Stellantis is recalling more than 15,000 Fiat vehicles due to a software error. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says the problem may cause the front airbags to deploy with excessive force in a crash. The recall includes some Fiat 124 Spider sports cars from model years 2017 through 2020. The agency said dealers will update the airbag control module software for free.
A federal judge has ruled that a New York City law mandating food delivery companies to share customer data with restaurants is unconstitutional. Yesterday's decision was a win for DoorDash, Grubhub, and Uber Eats. According to the ruling, the law violated the First Amendment by improperly regulating commercial speech. New York City adopted the law in the summer of 2021 to help restaurants recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. Delivery companies were required to provide this data to restaurants with customers' names, delivery addresses, email addresses, phone numbers, and orders. The companies argued that the law violated the privacy rights of customers and threatened their data security. The New York City Hospitality Alliance said the judge's decision, quote, hurt small businesses and consumers. Coming up, Trump speaks about getting jobs back to the U.S., and Harris is expected to unveil her plan on manufacturing today in Pittsburgh. Find out more about how they are winning over labor workers after this break.
One in 5 children worldwide are faced with the reality of living without food. No family dinners, no special treats, not enough energy to play. All around the world, hunger is affecting children's physical and mental health. Toddlers are suffering from acute malnutrition, which stunts their growth. Kids are forced to drop out of school so they can help support their families. Conflict, inflation, and climate have ignited the worst famine in our lifetime. And we are fed up. Fed up that hunger devours dreams. Fed up that hunger destroys joy. Fed up with the fact that hunger eats childhood. Help us feed the futures of children all over the world by visiting givetosave.org. For as little as $10 a month, you can join Save the Children as we support children and families in desperate need of our help. Now is the time to get fed up and give back. When you join the cause, your $10 monthly donation can help communities in need of life-saving treatments and nutrients, prevent children from dropping out of school, support our work with communities and governments to help children go from short-term surviving to long-term thriving. And now, thanks to special government grants, every dollar you give can multiply up to 10 times the impact. That means more food, water, medicine, and help for kids around the world. You'll also receive a free tote bag to share your support for children in need. Having your childhood eaten away by hunger is unimaginable. Get fed up. Call us now or visit givetosave.org today.
Will radical lies determine your child's future, or will timeless truths? Fathom the Good equips children with wisdom against the world. Our homeschool curriculum teaches high schoolers to think critically. We provide primary texts, original content, reasoning tools, and mentoring videos to help them transform America. Teach your children to navigate the world's woke confusion. Teach them to fathom the good.
Former President Trump speaks about getting jobs back to the U.S., and Harris is expected to unveil her plan on manufacturing today in Pittsburgh. Both are eager to win over blue-collar workers. Joining us now is Mike Leon, frequent NTD contributor and policy and strategy director for the Free and Equal Elections Foundation, as well as the host of the news commentary podcast, Can We Please Talk? Mike, welcome back. Both candidates are talking about manufacturing this week. The economy is the top priority for voters. Trump consistently scores better there, though. Is there anything Harris can key on, say, or do before the election to change that?
Well, Carrie, good to see you first and foremost. I mean, there's a bunch she can do. I think she's doing it later today, being in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Obviously, advanced manufacturing, a huge industry there, right? 10% of jobs in the state of Pennsylvania are in that industry. It's billions of dollars that come into the Keystone State there. So I think both of them, from a strategy perspective, are doing this the right way in terms of targeting workers and going to the different states. I know the former president's going to be in North Carolina talking with workers there as well. So they've both been talking about the economic policies. I think for Americans right now, and polling has shown this, it's always that question of, were you better 4 years ago than you were now? Now, of course, a global pandemic was happening around that time. There were a lot of layoffs and furloughs and uncertainty in the world. So I think for the Biden-Harris administration, she's mentioned this in the debates and on campaign stops, the mess that was inherited in terms of cleaning that up first and then pivoting to what the Biden administration wanted to carry out. I think Bidenomics and whether or not it works will be a long-term, historian type question. But I think she's trying to separate that by emphasizing a little bit more of the middle class, some of these tax breaks and benefits that she's been talking about, raising the corporate tax rate. So I think she's saying the right things and she's stopping in the right places. So there's still enough time, but early voting starts, in under 40 days. So there's not that much time, Carrie,
Yes, you mentioned appealing to workers. Trump is touting opportunity zones, while as Harris is pitching an opportunity economy. Sounds pretty similar. Previously on this program, you've called for a more specific policy platform from Harris. Are you starting to now see that? Are you getting what you were hoping to see from her?
I mean, I'm getting it to a small extent. So let me explain what I mean by that. And I said this recently on the show because I think there are certain things that she has emphasized that somebody that's like me, a little bit more advanced career-wise, doesn't qualify for, right? I already have 2 kids. So having a first-time kid I'm not going to qualify for that $6,000 credit. First-time home buyer, the $25,000 credit. there are people like me more advanced in their careers that wouldn't qualify for that. So what they really want to know is, look, the cost of consumer goods are up. Price gouging is a major issue. And I know the Harris campaign has started to tackle that a little bit more. Credit card debt. The average American has $6,500, excuse me, in credit card debt, but it's risen to $1.14 trillion as of July of 2024, up from $924 billion in 2023. That's a major issue that many of Americans are facing out there, and the fees associated with these companies that they charge, finance fees, the APR and interest rates. And I know former President Trump has mentioned this in one of his recent campaign stops, but he got asked about that in a recent press conference, and he didn't give the best answer. And I think Kamala Harris has not been asked about that because she hasn't done that many interviews with the press. But this is why I've been encouraging the Harris campaign. First, make the policies visible on your website. They started to do that. Second, start to drill into other millions of Americans that are facing other issues outside of things that they wouldn't qualify from a program perspective. And then the third part of this is when you do media interviews, I think it's incumbent upon us, Carrie, as media types, to really ask these type of questions by giving financial figures and who this would affect in terms of Americans and what is their specific plan for tackling that. And I think that needs to continue.
Yes, being very specific on what to do about both individual debt, as you mentioned, and then, of course, the macro level debt that the country is facing. But the election is going to be decided by just a couple of states. So all of this speaking about what the nation needs, from outsiders looking in, maybe don't understand American politics, it's just a handful of states that are going to make the difference. They're both in battleground states today. What's the latest there on those few states? Who's ahead? What can we expect?
Yeah. So, and by the way, I'm glad you framed it like that for people that are watching globally. Like, there's an electoral college process in this, right? There are a lot of states that are entrenched in red and a lot of states entrenched in blue, and that's just based on registered Democrats versus registered Republicans in the state. So those states are not in play, which is why you've seen very few stops from the Harris campaign. Or even I know the Trump campaign has done more here in Florida, but that's because where he's based. But back to your overarching question, they're hitting the Arizonas, the Michigans, the Pennsylvanias, the Wisconsins, the North Carolinas of the world, because those are the most realistic pathways to get to 270. I know there's latest polling that has come out from the New York Times, Siena College, from Monmouth. It has them all within nationally tied to within a couple percentage point leads for Kamala Harris. There are some of the swing states that are in her favor right now, going up 50 to 47%, I think, in one of the latest polls in Pennsylvania, which is a critical state, and it's 19 electoral votes. So there's a reason why, for people that maybe don't follow this on an everyday perspective, there's a reason why they're targeting these specific counties and specific cities and states. Pittsburgh, Allegheny County is a huge blue dot, along with Philadelphia, in the state of Pennsylvania. So, and there's a reason why former President Trump is in Butler, Pennsylvania, when that shooting happened in July, because that's more of one of the red counties. So I think for people out there understanding this, they're making strategic plays and they're hitting those states in the proper places.
Yes, and as we finish up, you mentioned the nuances of the Electoral College system. A new Quinnipiac poll that's just come out has Trump on track actually to win the popular vote. Republican hasn't won the popular vote in 20 years, despite winning the presidency. Do you see that poll as an outlier, or do you think that the sands are shifting?
Well, that's the first time I've heard of that data set from that poll. And Quinnipiac is a very well-known poll. I'm from the state of Connecticut, so I know Quinnipiac University very well, and some of the pollsters up there. So it's very well done. I'd be interested to see how that does play out nationally, because obviously he's lost the last two popular votes to Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden, and the margins have increased. And they've increased mainly because of the blue states, like we just mentioned before, and more voter turnout that was coming out from those states. So if he were to win the popular vote and lose the Electoral College, I don't see how that would happen, given just the map right now and the states that are in play for both of them. But I think it would signify a shift, because there is a talk about the shift of the Republican Party and whether or not it'll carry nationally. And that would be one of the biggest indicators, right? Winning the popular vote, which is something that a Republican president hasn't done. But like you mentioned, Carrie, which is pivotal, you don't need to win the popular vote, because it just comes down to a handful of states and being able to make up the margins in those states. So that'll be interesting to see.
Well, Well, as a fellow Connecticut guy, Mike, we always appreciate your insights. Mike Leon, frequent NTD contributor, policy and strategy director for the Free and Equal Elections Foundation, and host of the news commentary podcast, Can We Please Talk? Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Gary.
Former President Trump responding to Iranian threats against him by warning of severe consequences. This comes as he thanks bipartisan efforts to ramp up funding for the Secret Service. Joining us now live is NTD's Iris Tao. She's on the ground in Mint Hill, North Carolina for Trump's remarks. Good to see you, Iris. Tell us, what's Trump going to talk about today?
So Trump just wrapped up his speech here about the economy here in the suburb of Charlotte, North Carolina. But the speech had a bigger focus, which was about the latest threats we're hearing that were coming from Iran against former President Trump. And Trump responded to that by saying that if Iran harms a leading candidate in the U.S. presidential election, quote, we are going to blow your largest cities and the country itself to smithereens. Of course, if that's if he were the president. Here's a clip of that. Watch.
If I were the president, I would inform the threatening country, in this case Iran, that if you do anything to harm this person, we are going to blow your largest cities and the country itself to smithereens. We're going to blow it to smithereens. You can't do that. And there would be no more threats. There would be no more threats.
And just earlier today, Secretary of State Antony Blinken said that the U.S. is, quote, intensely tracking an ongoing threat by Iran against current and former U.S. government officials. And that comes after the Trump campaign said in a statement yesterday that it's monitoring threats from Iran and that it's continued assassination threats against Trump. They added that these are continued and coordinated attacks which have heightened in the past few months. And they also added that all agencies are working to ensure that President Trump is, quote, protected and the election is free from interference. And Trump himself also on Truth Social today and said, quote, big threats on my life by Iran. The entire U.S. military is watching and waiting. And that's as he responded to that as well in today's speech by saying he's not backing down. Watch.
Around the world, our enemies are desperate to prevent Donald Trump from returning to the White House because they know I will make America great again. They don't want that. 4 years ago, our country was feared and respected, and our country will soon be feared and respected again. We have to have that. No threat will shake me. No enemy will intimidate me. And I have never been more determined than I am today.
And Trump also uses this to emphasize the need for what he calls strong leadership in the U.S. to deter such foreign threats. And that's as the Secret Service director says Trump is already receiving the highest level of protection. Trump today also thanked both Democrats and Republicans in Congress for approving a bill that will ramp up protection for both Trump and Kamala Harris, the vice president, to the level for a sitting president. That was a unanimous vote in the Congress. Meanwhile, Trump is also holding events in the following days of this week with stops in Michigan on Friday and a rally in Wisconsin on Saturday. And we're currently still waiting for his campaign to confirm any events for tomorrow on Wednesday. Back to you.
All right. Thank you, Iris, reporting there from North Carolina. Always good to hear from you. A veiled threat from Beijing. China said it launched an intercontinental ballistic missile into the Pacific Ocean Tuesday. The missile carried a simulated warhead. These types of missiles are designed to carry nuclear warheads and can hit targets across continents. The launch comes amid the annual United Nations General Assembly in New York. China said the launch was part of its annual military training. An American nuclear weapons expert said this was Beijing's first such test in 4 decades. Tokyo said the missile did not appear to have passed Japan, adding China did not tell it in advance. Taiwan said its intelligence agency is closely monitoring the situation. China has been rapidly expanding its nuclear arsenal. It's estimated to have 500 nuclear warheads now. The U.S. has over 3,700 and Russia over 4,300.
Ukrainian President Zelensky addressed the UN General Assembly today. He also questioned the motives of China and Brazil in their calls for talks with Russia. He said that Ukraine will not accept a deal imposed from the outside.
And when the Chinese-Brazilian duo tries to grow into a choir of voices, with someone in Europe, with someone in Africa saying something alternative to a full and just peace, the question arises, what is the true interest? Everyone must understand you will not boost your power at Ukraine's expense.
Zelensky urged global leaders to support his country and seek a genuine peace. He said there's no alternative to his, quote, peace formula that calls for the removal of Russian forces and accountability for war crimes. Zelensky also expressed concerns about a nuclear incident and highlighted these fears as his country continues to battle against Russia. An official announcement is expected today that the U.S. will send Ukraine a military aid package totaling around $357 million. U.S. officials said yesterday it will include a number of bombs, rockets, artillery, and armored vehicles. Officials say the aid will come through Presidential Drawdown Authority, as nearly $6 billion in funding is set to expire at the end of the month. To prevent that, Congress would have to extend the Pentagon's authority to send weapons to the Ukraine.
Coming up, the Missouri Supreme Court's recent ruling keeps an abortion amendment on the November ballot, but critics say its vague language opens up a slippery slope to cancel other protections. Find out more after this break.
I didn't ask to lose my mother or to be abused at 5 years old. I didn't ask to be kicked out of my house with nowhere to go. I didn't ask for any of this. But I did ask for help, and Covenant House was there. Thanks to their love and support, and to generous people like you, I got what I needed to take control of my life.
For the young people who didn't ask to be put in unthinkable situations, Covenant House is there providing safety, hope, and a brighter future. Call or go online now. For a gift of only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can provide hot meals, safe shelter, medical care, and love to more than 2,000 young people who sleep at a Covenant House every night. 1 in 10 young adults will experience homelessness this year. Your gift can help reach them when they need it most.
I didn't ask for my parents and my family to disown me. I didn't ask to end up in a homeless shelter. The beauty of it all is that I found Covenant House.
The need is overwhelming, but your monthly support will make sure no young person is ever turned away. Call or go online right now to safeplacetosleep.org with your gift of just $19 a month. With your monthly donation, you'll receive this soft, comforting blanket as a reminder of the warmth and safety your gift will provide a young person tonight.
Covenant House really helped me and really helped mold me into the woman I am today. If there's no Covenant House, where would I be today?
Your monthly gift is urgently needed to reach young people in communities like yours who didn't ask to be put in unthinkable situations. Show them they're loved and not alone. Call the number on your screen or go online to safeplacetosleep.org.
Say goodbye to harsh, bitter coffee and hello to a delicious, smooth brew. With specialty quality beans, expertly roasted in-house, you'll taste the difference with every sip. Fermented with a blend of 50 enzymes, Days Coffee delivers a rich brew like no other. Made with the highest grade specialty beans available, you're sure to taste the difference. Elevate your morning with Days Enzyme Fermented Coffee.
At NativePath, we're driven to improve the lives of people by providing highly effective supplements that solve common health problems and support optimal health. This is what being on the path is all about.
Thanks for staying with us. In a significant ruling, the Missouri Supreme Court recently voted 4-3 to keep an amendment legalizing abortion on the November ballot.
NTD's Daniel Monahan spoke with an attorney from the Thomas More Society who says the amendment would do a lot more than restore abortion access in the state.
Abortion is banned in Missouri except to save a pregnant woman's life or to prevent serious risk to her physical health. Amendment 3 would make abortion legal up until the point of fetal viability. That is generally 23 to 24 weeks. The amendment defines fetal viability as when there is a significant likelihood of the fetus's sustained survival outside the uterus, without the application of extraordinary medical measures based on the particular facts of the case. Thomas More Society attorney Mary Catherine Martin finds fault with the term extraordinary medical measures.
I have had 4 babies born after 34 weeks that needed the NICU. So I don't know what they mean by extraordinary, but they were on every machine there was, and I had them after almost term. So, if they mean needing medical support like the neonatal intensive care unit, then we're talking about very late in pregnancy.
Martin says the amendment includes exceptions allowing abortion after fetal viability, including for the mental health of the mother. A healthcare professional, which could even include a social worker, would have to sign off on such a late-term abortion. Point 2 of the amendment says the government shall not deny or infringe upon a person's fundamental right to reproductive freedom, which is the right to make and carry out decisions about all matters relating to reproductive health care, including but not limited to prenatal care, childbirth, postpartum care, birth control, abortion care, miscarriage care, and respectful birthing conditions. Martin says general language like the phrase including but not limited to opens up the door for overturning all kinds of Missouri laws.
We have bans in Missouri already in our Constitution against cloning and against the use of in vitro fertilization for research purposes, for creating embryos to destroy them. Those are both matters relating to reproductive health care.
The Thomas More attorney says Missouri bans against cross-sex surgeries for minors could also be potentially overturned if Amendment 3 passes. Amendment 3 also states that the right to reproductive freedom shall not be denied except for a compelling governmental interest. It defines a governmental interest as compelling only if it is for the limited purpose and does not infringe on that person's autonomous decision-making. Martin says this provision elevates the right to abortion access above all other rights.
All the other major rights in the Constitution, if the state has a compelling interest, they can come in and say, you can speak, but you can't speak here and there where other people's interests come in. So a person in this amendment does not exclude children. So that means that your parents' right to approve your health care cannot infringe on a child's right to receive it.
In Missouri, a ballot initiative requires a simple majority, more than 50% of the votes, to pass. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Coming up, the Chinese regime launched a missile carrying a dummy warhead into the Pacific Ocean this morning. It was the first of its kind since 1980.
It comes after President Biden highlighted China's aggressive behavior in the region. That and more after this break.
Come to the Mathis Design Studio, the premier destination for designer furniture. See the latest trends from top brands with heirloom quality pieces for every room in your house. Whether you're redecorating a single room or furnishing an entire home, we have the styles you'll love. Plus, enjoy fast, complimentary delivery. Visit us now for exclusive discounts and let us help make your dream home a reality for less than you ever imagined at the Mathis Design Studio.
Where nature embraces you and fills you with invigorating joy. Treasuring every little moment as these romantic memories gather up to complete our blissful memories together. Mokpo.
As we naturally age, many people are getting zero amount of this incredible and unique substance. That's when we start seeing an impact in our joints, skin, nails, and even our digestion.
People ask me, Dr. X, what is the #1 supplement I should be taking? My answer is multi-collagen protein.
People's reactions to me, people were like, what are you doing? What is going on? You look amazing. You have a glow about you.
What makes Ancient Nutrition Multi-Collagen stand out from other brands? 10 types of collagen. It's grass-fed, pasture-raised with vitamin C and probiotics. It's proven to reduce joint discomfort rapidly, continuously, and persistently. It improves the appearance of crow's feet after 4 weeks and improves skin tone after 8 weeks. And it promotes hair thickness, growth, and a reduction in hair breakage.
It has transformed everything from my hair. Like, my hair was starting to kind of just, come out, and I don't have that anymore. My skin feels amazing.
Call the number on your screen and find out how to get a free bottle when you order, plus free shipping and our 30-day money-back guarantee. And as a bonus, we will include Dr. Josh Axe and Jordan Rubin's revolutionary book, Multi-Collagen Makeover, free with your order, plus free shipping and free returns.
I have implicit trust in Dr. Axe because the plan worked. I am living proof of it.
This is the collagen protein that is backed by clinical studies. It's what my family uses, it's what I use, and I know you're gonna benefit in a big way as well.
Love the results or get your money back. This special TV offer is not available in stores. Call the number on your screen or go online now.
Adopting you was the best decision in our life. And I am so proud to call you my son.
Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Fiona G.
I'm Carrie Dunst.
Vice President Kamala Harris is now in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where she's expected to talk about American manufacturing.
And former President Donald Trump speaks in Mint Hill, North Carolina on manufacturing and the economy. Both are crucial battleground states.
The Chinese regime launched a missile carrying a dummy warhead into the Pacific Ocean this morning. It was the first of its kind since 1980. It comes after President Biden highlighted China's aggressive behavior in the region.
Evacuation orders remain in southeastern Ohio following a toxic chemical leak from a trail car. What we know so far.
Helene is strengthening into a Category 1 hurricane as it nears Florida. More updates on what may become the strongest storm to hit the U.S. in over a year.
Ukrainian President Zelensky addresses the United Nations in New York. He warns of international alliances that could potentially pose a threat to the United States.
China fired an intercontinental ballistic missile into the Pacific Ocean, its first such test in 4 decades. That's as the United Nations General Assembly was underway in New York.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Kamala Harris will speak in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania at a rally where she's expected to talk about the economy.
Yes, she'll also will be doing her first solo network interview. NTD's national correspondent Jason Blair has the report.
Vice President Kamala Harris is expected to give a speech about her vision of the economy in Pittsburgh Wednesday afternoon. It's her 4th visit to the area during her presidential campaign. Pennsylvania has the most electoral votes of all the battleground states with 19. About 6 weeks ago, Harris first unveiled what she named her Opportunity Economy Plan. In a short talk with reporters on Sunday, she said this week she'd outline her vision to invest more in the aspirations of the American people while still addressing the challenges that they face. And while she's in Pittsburgh, Harris will also be sitting down with Stephanie Ruhle of MSNBC. It will be her first one-on-one network interview since being at the top of the Democratic ticket. It's scheduled to air at 7 p.m. Eastern the same day. And according to Axios, neither Harris nor her running mate, Governor Tim Walz, have held any press conferences yet during their campaign. In comparison, Republican nominee former President Trump has done 3, and his running mate, Governor J.D. Vance, has done 12. And Vance also responded to MSNBC's announcement about Harris's interview on X, saying Rule has explicitly endorsed Harris. She won't ask any hard cues. Vance also has a debate scheduled with Harris's running mate Tim Walz coming up October 1st. So far, it's the only scheduled one for the vice presidential nominees. It will be nominated by Norah O'Donnell and Margaret Brennan. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Jason Blair, NTD News.
Earlier this afternoon, Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump delivered remarks in North Carolina on manufacturing and the economy. NTD's Iris Tao is on the site.
So Trump just wrapped up his speech here about the economy here in the suburb of Charlotte, North Carolina. But the speech had a bigger focus, which was about the latest threats we're hearing that were coming from Iran against former President Trump. And Trump responded to that by saying that if Iran harms a leading candidate in the U.S. presidential election, quote, we are going to blow your largest cities and the country itself to smithereens. Of course, if that's if he were the president. Here's a clip of that. Watch.
If I were the president, I would inform the threatening country, in this case Iran, that if you do anything to harm this person, we are going to blow your largest cities and the country itself to smithereens. We're going to blow it to smithereens. You can't do that. And there would be no more threats. There would be no more threats.
And just earlier today, Secretary of State Antony Blinken said that the U.S. is, quote, intensely tracking an ongoing threat by Iran against current and former U.S. government officials. And that comes after the Trump campaign said in a statement yesterday that it's monitoring threats from Iran and that it's continued assassination threats against Trump. They added that these are continued and coordinated attacks which have heightened in the past few months. And they also added that all agencies are working to ensure that President Trump is, quote, protected and the election is free from interference. And Trump himself also on Truth Social today and said, quote, big threats on my life by Iran. The entire U.S. military is watching and waiting. And that's as he responded to that as well in today's speech by saying he's not backing down. Watch.
Around the world, our enemies are desperate to prevent Donald Trump from returning to the White House because they know I will make America great again. They don't want that. 4 years ago, our country was feared and respected, and our country will soon be feared and respected again. We have to have that. No threat will shake me. No enemy will intimidate me. And I have never been more determined than I am today.
And Trump also uses this to emphasize the need for what he calls strong leadership in the U.S. to deter such foreign threats. And that's as the Secret Service director says Trump is already receiving the highest level of protection. Trump today also thanked both Democrats and Republicans in Congress for approving a bill that will ramp up protection for both Trump and Kamala Harris, the vice president, to the level for a sitting president. That was a unanimous vote in the Congress. Meanwhile, Trump is also holding events in the following days of this week with stops in Michigan on Friday and a rally in Wisconsin on Saturday. And we're currently still waiting for his campaign to confirm any events for tomorrow on Wednesday. Back to you.
We're still following the campaign trail, and in less than a week, vice presidential candidates Tim Walz and J.D. Vance will debate right here in New York City. NTD will have on-the-ground coverage, in-depth analysis, and a lot more prepared for you during our pre- and post-debate show on The Nation Decides 2024, presented by our very own Steve Lance and Tiffany Meyer. Watch it next Tuesday, October 1st at 8 p.m. Eastern. A bipartisan Senate committee has revealed its report on the first Trump assassination attempt. It details lapses in preparation and communication the day former President Trump was shot.
The report called multiple Secret Service failures, quote, foreseeable and preventable.
The report found multiple failures on almost every level ahead of the Butler, Pennsylvania shooting. That includes planning, communications, security, and also allocation of resources. Investigators found there was no clear chain of command among the Secret Service and other security agencies, and no plan for coverage of the building where the shooter climbed up to fire the shots. Officials were also operating on multiple separate radio channels, leading to missed communications. The report says the Secret Service was notified about someone on the roof around 2 minutes before the shooter opened fire. A local officer also sent a radio alert that there was an armed individual on the building, but that was about 22 seconds before shots were fired, and this is all according to the report. But all of this information was not relayed to key Secret Service personnel. The report also says a Secret Service counter sniper reported seeing officers with their guns drawn. They were running toward the building where the shooter was perched, but no one attempted to get Trump off the stage.
The Senate report comes shortly after the Secret Service released a summary of its preliminary findings. A House task force will hold a hearing investigating the incidents tomorrow. The senators recommend that the Secret Service better define roles and responsibilities before any protective event. They want the agency to designate a single individual in charge of approving all the security plans. Investigators found that many in charge denied that they had responsibility for planning or security failures and deflected the blame. In a statement today, a Secret Service spokesman said the agency had already implemented some of the committee's suggestions. He said the agency has raised Trump's security to the highest level the Secret Service can provide.
The head of a Haitian nonprofit organization seeks criminal charges against former President Trump and Senator J.D. Vance. The case involves allegations the two had made about illegal immigrants in Springfield, Ohio. The Haitian Bridge Alliance is alleging 6 offenses. Those include making false claims that alarmed the community and disrupted public services. The alliance accuses Trump and Vance of spreading what it called baseless fear-mongering about Haitian immigrants. The accusations gained traction after Trump said illegal immigrants were eating pets during his debate with Vice President Kamala Harris. Local officials in Springfield have refuted the claims, saying that there is no evidence of pets being harmed. The court must now determine whether to pursue these charges further. Police are investigating gunfire damage at Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign office in Tempe, Arizona. Fortunately, no one was inside during the incident. The damage occurred just days before Harris's planned visit to the state. Tempe police reported finding bullet holes in the front windows of the office. The incident raises concerns about the safety of staff in the building. The Arizona Democratic Party and other campaigns are also housed there. The damage was discovered on Monday. This marks the second act of vandalism at the office in recent weeks. A previous incident involved BB or pellet gun damage to the windows. Vice President Harris and former President Trump will each participate in separate town halls hosted by Univision in October.
Trump's event will be held on October 8th in Miami, while Harris's will appear on October 10th in Vegas. The town halls will feature questions from undecided Hispanic voters and air at 10 p.m. with Spanish translation.
Moving on, Harris will skip the Al Smith charity dinner this year. The move breaks a tradition that dates back to 1960. A Harris campaign official says that she will be focusing on key battleground states instead.
Former President Donald Trump confirmed he will attend the October 17th event. It's a major fundraiser for the Catholic Archdiocese of New York. It's come to symbolize underlying unity and putting aside political differences. Nebraska Governor Jim Pillen has announced he will not call a special session to change the state's electoral vote system. The decision halts efforts to implement a winner-take-all system before the presidential election. Pillen failed to secure the needed 33 votes in the legislature. State Senators Mike McConnell's refusal to support the proposal played a key role in the setback. McDonnell said the current system allows for all voters to have a voice. Nebraska's unique electoral approach allocates votes by congressional district. The state remains a critical battleground as the election nears. That particularly applies to the 2nd District, where both President Biden and former President Obama won the district during their elections.
An appeals court in Pennsylvania has backed a lower court ruling on voting policy in Washington County. This is after a Washington County judge ruled on mail-in ballots last month. He had decided the county must tell voters if their mail-in ballots have been counted or rejected. The county judge said that this is so that voters have an opportunity to challenge alleged defects. He also ruled that voters can cast provisional ballots. Washington County officials appealed that ruling, and a group of county voters brought the case. County officials said notifying all voters about rejected mail-in ballots would be too much of a burden. The state appeals court upheld the county judge's decision in a 2-1 ruling yesterday. Coming up, the Chinese regime launched a missile carrying a dummy warhead into the Pacific Ocean this morning. It was the first of its kind since 1980, and it comes after President Biden highlighted China's aggressive behavior in the region.
Helene is strengthening into a Category 1 hurricane as it nears Florida. More updates on what may become the strongest storm yet to hit the U.S. in over a year. That and more after this break.
When I started MyPillow, it was just a problem solution, one product company. Well, since then, with the help of my dedicated employees, we now have hundreds of products, some you might not even know about. To get the word out, we're having a $25 extravaganza. 2-pack multi-use MyPillows, $25. MyPillow sandals, $25. And for the first time ever, our 6-pack towel sets, you guessed it, just $25. Our brand new 4-pack dish towels, $25. And I've never done this before. Premium MyPillows with all new Giza fabric, any size, any loft level, even king size for only $25. And there's so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code for our $25 extravaganza. Order $75 and over, your entire order ships absolutely free.
This is such a gentle painting, so beautifully portrayed.
A group of people reading together in this simple, everyday-looking living room. A young girl reading along with an adult, a grandparent sitting in the lotus position, a businessman in his typical suit.
You see all those people, they look like they have quietly settled down there. And you as a viewer, it looks like you've just stepped in the door.
You can't see what it is they're reading, so you're a little bit curious and you're kind of invited to walk in.
This harmonious feeling is not by accident. It is the very subject of the work. The book they are reading is the main text of Falun Gong, which is an ancient Chinese spiritual discipline in the Buddhist tradition. At the core of Falun Gong are the values of truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance. Unfortunately, the practice is banned in China, where the artist resides. Thousands have been killed for their faith. Golden energy blooms into the room as a result of their steadfast faith. The painting on the back wall reminds us of this work's title, Plum Blossoms in a Muddy World.
It's also a metaphor for the practitioners that are sitting in the room as plum blossoms.
They signify perseverance and hope that all brutal winters end and life is renewed once again.
It's a magical painting.
Welcome back. China fired a missile carrying a dummy warhead into the Pacific Ocean earlier today. This comes after President Biden called out the Chinese regime for its aggressive military behavior in the region. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley has the details.
The Chinese regime launched a missile into the Pacific Ocean into open waters this morning. It was carrying a dummy warhead and was not targeting any particular nation. Now, this is the first time China's fired an intercontinental ballistic missile since 1980. This follows President Biden's final address to the United Nations in New York City, where he called out the Chinese regime's military aggression in the South China Sea.
The United States is unabashed, pushing back against unfair economic competition, against military coercion of other nations in the South China Sea, and maintaining peace and stability across the Taiwan Straits, and protecting our most advanced technologies so they cannot be used against us or any of our partners.
China has been raising security concerns for the U.S. and its allies in the Pacific in recent months, whether it's ramming Philippine Coast Guard vessels or blocking them from completing resupply missions, sending a spy plane into Japanese airspace, or holding naval military drills near Taiwan. Earlier this week, President Biden met with the so-called Quad leaders in Delaware. Now, these are leaders from Japan, India, Australia, and Biden was caught on a hot mic telling them that China is testing them with its aggressive behavior.
China continues to behave aggressively, testing us all across the region. And it's true in the South China Sea, the East China Sea, South Asia.
Now, this obviously leaves an open question as to what message this missile launch is sending from China. Now, this comes almost a year after a Chinese spy balloon was caught flying over sensitive military installations in the U.S. And of course, the U.S. military shot it down soon after its discovery. And this comes as President Biden is meeting with Vietnam's General Secretary on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly in New York. Biden visited Vietnam last year, where the two nations' leaders secured deals on semiconductors. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Jack Bradley, NTD News.
A stopgap funding bill is expected to move through Congress today to prevent a government shutdown. Senate leaders struck an agreement to fast-track debate on the bill as the House prepares to vote on it. The bill would keep the government running until December 20th. It would extend funding for most agencies at normal levels, but the Security Service would be provided an additional $231 million after the 2 assassination attempts on former President Trump. House Speaker Mike Johnson said that he would not support a massive catch-all bill to fund the government after that. Another stopgap may be needed after December 20th. The sheriff of a small Appalachian county in Kentucky is accused of fatally shooting a judge in his chambers. He pleaded not guilty to a murder charge today.
I'll enter does he want to enter a plea at this time?
Your Honor, you would enter a plea if not guilty.
Letcher County Sheriff Sean Steins is being held in another Kentucky county. He appeared by video before a special judge for a brief hearing. Steins showed no emotion during the hearing, where a public defender entered a not guilty plea on his behalf. The special judge conducted the hearing from his courtroom in northeastern Kentucky. There was no discussion of a bond during the hearing. The judge indicated that the maximum punishment in the case would be the death penalty. It was the first court appearance for Steins since the shooting.
New York City Schools Chancellor David Banks says he's retiring. His announcement comes during a series of federal investigations into New York City Mayor Eric Adams' administration. Adams appointed Banks roughly 2 years ago to lead the city's public school system. Federal investigators raided the school chancellor's home earlier this month and seized his phones. Banks says he'll resign at the end of this year. He's the 4th high-ranking New York City official to step down this month. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has the update on investigations into Banks and Mayor Eric Adams' administration.
Banks' planned retirement makes him the 4th high-ranking New York City official to resign this month. He thanked New York City Mayor Eric Adams for the opportunity to serve as chancellor and said he's immensely proud of the progress they made. Banks touted his signature policies in his resignation, like his role in changing how the city's roughly 900,000 students are taught to read. He wrote he has every confidence the work with Adams will continue to thrive and benefit generations to come. Mayor Adams says he is immensely grateful and proud of the work accomplished together. Banks' announcement comes a day after the city's health commissioner, Dr. Ashwin Vasan, said he was stepping down. Vasan says he's resigning for personal and family reasons. This after Chief Counsel Lisa Zornberg and NYPD Commissioner Edward Caban left their roles roughly 2 weeks ago. At least 4 federal investigations are underway into Adams' inner circle. Investigations include one involving Banks and his brothers. The FBI seized Banks' phones and other devices during a search of his home. The FBI confiscated the devices of his partner, Deputy Mayor Sheena Wright. FBI agents also seized devices from Banks' two brothers, Deputy Mayor Phil Banks, a former NYPD ranking officer, and Terrence Banks, a retired MTA supervisor who runs a lobbying firm. None have been accused of any wrongdoing as of now. Federal prosecutors are separately investigating Adams' 2021 campaign finances. The FBI has not made details of that investigation public. Banks' retirement starts December 31st. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
Southwest Airlines plans to eliminate about 1/3 of its flights to Atlanta next year. The carrier is under pressure from a hedge fund to increase profits and boost the airline's stock price. Southwest will cut more than 300 jobs for pilots and flight attendants. The airline added that those employees will have a chance to relocate. Southwest executives are expected to detail other planned changes at an investor meeting tomorrow. This session is in response to Elliott Investment Management's campaign to shake up Southwest's leadership. The hedge fund hopes to reverse a decline in the airline's profits over the past 3 years. The president of the union representing Southwest flight attendants expressed outrage at the decision. He said Southwest had assured the union that it would expand in Atlanta.
Workers for Boeing say that they felt pressured to focus on production speed over quality. That summary comes from a special investigation published Wednesday by the FAA, made public by a Senate subcommittee. In the report, employees say they didn't feel trained enough to do their jobs. Boeing has been facing multiple investigations since a door plug blew off a 737 MAX flight in midair back in January. FAA Administrator Mike Whittaker testified in June that the agency had taken a, quote, too hands-off approach to regulating Boeing. In testimony to a House committee yesterday, Whittaker said the company has made strides on its production line, but he also said that much work remains in repairing Boeing's safety culture. In response to the new report, Boeing says the company has taken key steps to create a safety culture that encourages employees to share their voice. Boeing says it also continues to put into action a comprehensive plan to improve in several areas under the FAA's oversight. About 2,000 hotel workers are on strike at Hawaii's largest resort. The walkout is the latest in a series of hotel employees striking across the country. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the latest.
Unionized workers at the largest Hilton hotel in the world began an open-ended strike early Tuesday morning. Employees chanted slogans while forming a picket line outside the Hilton Hawaiian Village Waikiki Beach Resort. Housekeeper Estea Fontanilla says the walkout isn't just about workers.
We're fighting for our wages and our shirt staffing. For our guests, we're fighting for our guests.
The pandemic limited daily services at many hotels. More than 4 years after the coronavirus outbreak, Fontanilla wants her regular schedule back.
It's hard to clean for a room that we don't have to clean daily. It's more harder for us, and it takes longer to clean the room, and it's more dirty. So we need a daily housekeeping.
According to Unite Here, more than 4,000 hotel workers are now on strike at Hilton, Hyatt, and Marriott hotels in Honolulu, San Diego, and San Francisco. The union said they will strike until they win new contracts and warned that more strikes could begin soon. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
New Jersey paused an offshore wind energy project today. The project is having a hard time finding a manufacturer for its turbines. The New Jersey Board of Public Utilities granted Leading Light Wind a pause on its project until December 20th. This gives developers time to find the crucial components that it needs. The project would be built 40 miles off Long Beach Island and would consist of up to 100 turbines. That's enough to power 1 million homes. However, turbine manufacturers GE, Vernova, and Vestas aren't options, and turbine manufacturer Siemens Gamesa Renewable Energy has raised its prices. This leaves the project without a turbine supplier. Residents in Ohio near Cincinnati were asked to evacuate after a chemical started to leak from a rail car yesterday. Authorities say a pressure release valve was leaking styrene. Styrene is a toxic and flammable chemical that's used to make plastic and rubber. It can cause headaches, nausea, and respiratory issues. Long-term exposure can lead to more serious problems like organ damage. The county's emergency agency told anyone within half a mile of the area to leave immediately. The leaking train car was near U.S. Route 50 and the Great Miami River. A railroad official says the rail car has stopped leaking and has been removed.
Gold has hit repeated highs this year, climbing 30%. Most recently, it notched a fresh record of $2,687.30 on Tuesday. This comes after the Federal Reserve slashed interest rates by half a point last week. Some investors say the gold rally suggests markets are still on edge about the economy. Traders tend to flock to metals during periods of uncertainty. Silver has also jumped roughly 34% this year. Disney is officially cracking down on password and account sharing. This week, the company rolled out its paid sharing program to users in many regions around the world, including the U.S. According to a Disney blog post published on Wednesday, Disney Plus basic account holders will be able to add an extra user for $6.99 per month. For Disney Plus premium accounts, adding a user will cost an extra $9.99 a month. Only one extra member will be allowed per account, and it is not available as part of the Disney bundle. Helene has strengthened into a hurricane, with forecasts predicting landfall on Florida's Gulf Coast this week. Evacuation orders are expanding in several counties as the storm intensifies. NTD's Christina Corona tells us more.
The hurricane is expected to bring life-threatening storm surges, damaging winds, and torrential rainfall across Florida and the Southeast. Helene is on track to become the most powerful storm to strike the U.S. in over a year. Helene continues to strengthen as it moves past Mexico, heading toward the U.S. Gulf Coast. It reached Category 1 hurricane status Wednesday morning and is expected to strike Florida's Big Bend late Thursday. A storm surge warning is in effect for the Florida Keys and most of Florida's west coast, with life-threatening flooding expected over the next 36 hours and surges potentially reaching up to 15 feet. According to the National Hurricane Center, as of 11 a.m. Eastern Time Wednesday, Helene was about 500 miles southwest of Tampa, Florida, with maximum sustained winds of 80 miles per hour. The storm has prompted evacuations and school closures, with the state issuing both voluntary and mandatory evacuation orders across 13 counties. Residents along Florida's Gulf Coast are preparing by filling sandbags ahead of the storm.
I'm worried about the storm surge, the water that could be 4 to 8 feet in my house, and I lose everything. We're packing up these sandbags today. I'm so grateful for the city for providing the sand. We came out here and we're actually having a really good time getting prepped with everybody and getting input on how everybody is prepping.
You know, I love helping out people, especially older people that can't do the hard work. So I'm just here for the people and to try to bring the community together just a little.
Emergency declarations have also been issued in Georgia and North Carolina. Former Hurricane John reformed as a tropical storm on Wednesday, threatening Mexico's western coast after causing 2 fatalities on the southern Pacific coast late Monday. Helene is expected to become a massive and potential destructive Category 3 hurricane. Forecasters warn it could reach major hurricane status before making landfall along Florida's Gulf Coast late Thursday. Christina Corona, NTD News.
When we come back, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky addresses the United Nations in New York. He warns of international alliances that could potentially pose a threat to the United States.
China fired an intercontinental ballistic missile into the Pacific Ocean, its first such test in 4 decades. That as the United Nations General Assembly was underway in New York. That and more after this break.
You could whiten your teeth by simply brushing your teeth. Now you can with Smile Actives, the teeth whitening breakthrough that safely gets your teeth white and keeps them white every day, just by brushing your teeth.
I never thought that whitening my teeth could be so easy. I just put the gel on the brush, the toothpaste on it, brush, and I can see my white teeth.
Simply add Smile Actives to any toothpaste and our patented PolyClean technology activates into a powerful microfoam that penetrates into the enamel surface to safely lift and remove stains.
You need a simple way to whiten your teeth. Without strips, without trays, without going to the dentist. And it was about time that a product was developed that you would be able to do that with just brushing.
And now, Smile Actives is even better with new Pro Whitening Gel with 33% greater whitening power, clinically shown to whiten teeth faster, up to 8 shades. 100% of users saw whiter teeth. On food stains, coffee and wine stains, even on veneers, crowns, and dentures.
I eat the blueberries, I drink the coffee, and I know that Smile Actives will keep my teeth white every day.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Why spend hundreds of dollars for whitening treatments at the dentist when now you can whiten your teeth with new Smile Actives Pro Whitening Gel every time you brush your teeth? Call or go to smileactives.com and for a limited time get new Pro Whitening Gel for just $24.95. Order in the next 5 minutes and buy one get one absolutely free for just $24.95. That's 2 for 1 and save 58%. We'll even include free shipping. Get your teeth whiter guaranteed or return it within 60 days for your money back.
I smile every day now.
The difference is literally night and day.
So now I'm always smiling, always choosing, because now my teeth are much whiter.
This offer is not available in stores, so call or click now before the special buy one get one free offer goes away.
Welcome back to Newsroom. The Israeli army chief has told ground forces to prepare for a possible ground operation into Lebanon. Fighting between Israeli forces and Hezbollah has continued to escalate in recent days. Israeli aircraft began launching hundreds of strikes inside Lebanon last week, and those were aimed at Hezbollah leaders and the group's military capabilities. Hezbollah has continued to launch rockets and drones at targets across Israel, including Tel Aviv. Joining us to discuss these developments is Ruthie Bloom, senior contributing editor at Jewish News Syndicate and former advisor at the office of Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. Ruthie, it's good to see you. Starting us off, how likely is Israel to enter Lebanon, do you think?
Well, I think it's likely, though I have no inside information. And I know that there are many forces trying to prevent us from doing so. It's not a given, but I believe that there will be no choice. And the reason I believe that is that despite all of our best efforts to take out the leadership of Hezbollah and we've also killed many terrorists and taken out many rocket launchers and missile launchers, Hezbollah is not backing down and refuses to surrender, refuses even to move back beyond the Litani River, which it was supposed to have done, by the way, in 2006 at the end of the Second Lebanon War, according to UN Resolution 1701. That was never honored. And since October 8th, the day after the October 7th massacre by Hamas in southern Israel, Hezbollah joined in and has been firing rockets and made our entire northern border have to evacuate. So we finally are taking the war to Lebanon, where Hezbollah is, removing it from Israel and taking it into to the source.
So Israel has said all along that all its actions are in self-defense. Now, based on what you just said there, would this incursion into Lebanon invalidate that claim at all?
Oh, not at all. Every action we've taken has been in self-defense. You realize that every border of ours had a ceasefire until, and always does, until the enemies attack us and openly state that their aim is to annihilate the state of Israel. Now, keeping in mind that all of these forces are Iranian proxies, because since the October 7th massacre, we've also been attacked by Houthis from Yemen, Iraqi militias. All of these forces are Iranian-backed forces there to wipe out the state of Israel. And keep in mind again that Iran calls Israel the small Satan, and the great Satan is the United States. That's the aim of the Iranian mullahs, is to create an Islamic caliphate, is to take over the region and eventually the world, of course, and through its nuclear program.
All right. Ruthie, I want to talk more about these citizens. Israel says that it wants its citizens to be able to return to the northern part of the country that they've been displaced during this war, but also entering Lebanon would displace even more regular Lebanese citizens as well. We've already been seeing thousands of them displaced. So is this really the best or the only solution here?
Well, we didn't want this solution, okay? We never want to go to war. And the difference between us and Hezbollah, of course, we're a democratic state and Hezbollah is a terrorist organization, okay? But Hezbollah also sits in the Lebanese parliament. This is not to say that the Lebanese people are guilty, only some of them who voted for Hezbollah. This is not to say that most of Lebanon, I think that many Lebanese people loathe Hezbollah and wish it weren't destroying their country and their economy, all right? However, here's the difference. Our northern border had to be evacuated because the civilians were targeted with rockets and missiles and drones. We, on the other hand, urge the Lebanese civilians to get out of harm's way. Now, understand the terrorist groups, this is the same as that Hamas does in Gaza. The terrorist organizations want their own civilians killed as much as possible by Israel so that the international community will then attack Israel for killing their civilians. It's part of their strategy, you see. They don't care. Hassan Nasrallah, the Hezbollah chief, he doesn't care about Lebanon. He cares about radical Islam. He cares about his ultimate goal. And so he's willing to sacrifice as many Lebanese people as it takes, as long as Israel gets censured by the entire international community. And in that respect, you could say that he's doing a very good job, just as Hamas is. And because no matter how much we defeat their rocket launchers, one thing they have going for them is that they purposely keep their civilians in harm's way. And then the international community does do that, does accuse us of killing civilians.
Right. It's very sad just how many regular citizens on both sides are being caught up in the crossfire here. Now, Ruthie, I want to ask this. If Israel's forces do end up moving north across the Lebanese border, do you see that leaving any potential weaknesses elsewhere?
Well, it depends what you mean. I think actually that victory by us over the terrorist organizations in the north and the south and everywhere else, and as many, let's say, Iranian facilities as we can also target, that will strengthen the Middle East, not weaken it. It will strengthen the world. Our victory will also strengthen the Abraham Accords, the peace treaties that we made with our Gulf neighbors. They are also waiting to see us emerge victorious. Victory is what will enable us to have peace, and victory is what will enable the Middle East to be stabilized, not weakened.
All right, well, such a rapidly developing situation there in the Middle East. Ruthie Bloom, Senior Contributing Editor at Jewish News Syndicate. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Moving on, Vice President Kamala Harris is in Pittsburgh today. She's going to unveil her new manufacturing policy. She plans to emphasize her economic approach, and she pledges to work closely with the private sector and entrepreneurs as well.
Harris will also try to contrast herself from former President Trump by highlighting her middle-class roots. Let's take a look.
Fundamental values of fairness, dignity, and opportunity. And I promise you, I will be pragmatic in my approach. I will engage in what Franklin Roosevelt called bold, persistent experimentation. Because I believe we shouldn't be constrained by ideology and instead should seek practical solutions to problems, realistic assessments of what is working and what is not, applying metrics to our analysis, applying facts to our analysis, and stay focused then, not only on the crises at hand, but on our big goals, on what's best for America over the long term. And part of being pragmatic means taking good ideas from wherever they come. Listen, you all know my career. Andrea shared it with you. I am a devout public servant. I also know the limitations of government. I've always been and will always be, and be clear about this, I've always been and will always be a strong supporter of workers and unions. And I also believe we need to engage those who create most of the jobs in America. Look, I'm a capitalist. I believe in free and fair markets. I believe in consistent and transparent rules of the road to create a stable business environment. And I know the power of American innovation. I've been working with entrepreneurs and business owners my whole career. And I believe companies need to play by the rules, respect the rights of workers and unions, and abide by fair competition. And if they don't, I will hold them accountable. And if anyone has a question about that, just look at my record as Attorney General. Look at my record in California, taking on the big banks for predatory lending, taking on big healthcare companies for conspiring to jack up prices, taking on a big for-profit college for scamming veterans and students. At the same time, I believe that most companies are working hard to do the right thing by their customers and the employees who depend on them. And we must work with them to grow our economy. I believe an active partnership between government and the private sector is one of the most effective ways to fully unlock economic opportunity. And that is what I will do when I am president. I will target the major barriers to opportunity and remove them. We will identify common sense solutions to help Americans buy a home, start a business, and build wealth. And we will adopt them. So let's start then with the first pillar of an opportunity economy, which is lowering costs. So I made that our top priority for obvious reasons. Because if we want the middle class to be the growth engine of our economy, we need to restore basic economic security for middle-class families. To that end, the most practical thing we can do right now is to cut taxes for middle-class families and individuals. And that's what we will do. Under my plan, more than 100 million Americans will get a middle-class tax break. That includes $6,000 for new parents during the first year of their child's life. To help families cover everything from car seats to cribs. We'll also cut the cost of childcare and elder care. And finally, give all working people access to paid leave, which will help everyone caring for children, caring for aging parents, and that sandwich generation, which is caring for both. So I have a personal experience with caregiving. I remember being there for my mother when she was diagnosed with cancer. cooking meals for her, taking her to her appointments, just trying to make her comfortable, figuring out which clothes were soft enough that they wouldn't irritate her, and telling her stories to try and make her laugh. I know caregiving is about dignity. It really is. And when we lower the cost and ease the burdens people face, we will not only make it then easier for them to meet their obligations as caregivers, we will also make it more possible for them to go to work and pursue their economic aspirations. And when that happens, our economy as a whole grows stronger. Now, middle-class tax cuts are just the start of my plan. We will also go after the biggest drivers of cost for the middle class and work to bring them down. And one of those, some would argue one of the biggest, is the cost of housing. So here's what we will do. We will cut the red tape that stops homes from being built and take on, in addition, corporate landlords who are hiking rental prices. And we will work with builders and developers to construct 3 million new homes and rentals for the middle class, because increasing the housing supply will help drive down the cost of housing. We will also help first-time homebuyers just get their foot in the door with the $25,000 down payment assistance. Because the goal is clear. Let's help more Americans afford to buy a home, which we know is a critical step in their ability to grow their wealth and intergenerational wealth. And we will work to reduce other big costs for middle-class families. We will take on bad actors who exploit emergencies and drive up grocery prices by enacting the first ever federal ban on corporate price gouging. I had the experience of dealing with that when I was Attorney General. We will take on Big Pharma and cap the cost of prescription drugs for all Americans, just like we did for our seniors. Now, by contrast, Donald Trump has no intention of lowering costs for the middle class. In fact, his economic agenda would actually raise prices. And listen, that's not just my opinion. A survey of top economists by the Financial Times and the University of Chicago found that by an overwhelming 70 to 3% margin, my plan would be better for keeping inflation low. Objective economists have been very clear. The second pillar of an opportunity economy is investing in American innovation and entrepreneurship. So for the last century, the United States of America has been a beacon around the world. And as your vice president now for almost 4 years, I've been traveling the world, meeting with world leaders, meeting with foreign leaders, meeting with business people in various countries with which we have partnership. And I will tell you, America remains a beacon for what it means to inspire and invest in innovation. Not only for our ability to come up with some of the most breakthrough ideas, but also our ability to turn those ideas into some of the most consequential innovations the world has ever known. I believe the source of our success is the ingenuity, the dynamism, and enterprising spirit of the American people. To paraphrase, yes, it is, it's our nature. It's our nature. To paraphrase Warren Buffett, since the founding of our nation, there has been no incubator for unleashing human potential like America. And we need to guard that spirit. We have to guard that spirit. Let it always inspire us. Let it always be the source of our optimism, which is that spirit that is so uniquely American. And let that then inspire us by helping us to be inspired to solve the problems that so many face, including our small business owners. So as I travel the country, what I hear time and again from those who own small businesses and those who aspire to start them is that too often an entrepreneur has a great idea, not too often, that's good, and they have the willingness to take the risk, but they don't have access to the capital that they need to make it real. And as Andrea said, not everybody was handed on a silver platter $400 million and then filed for bankruptcy 6 times. Oh, I said that. I actually said that. Well, we can make it easier. We can make it easier for our small businesses to access capital. On average, it costs about $40,000 to start a new business. But currently, the tax deduction for startups is only $5,000. So currently, for startup costs, the tax deduction is $5,000. Well, in 2024, it is almost impossible to start a business on $5,000, which is why, as president, I will make the startup deduction 10 times richer, and we will raise it from $5,000 to $50,000 tax deduction. And provide low and no interest loans to small businesses that want to expand. All of which will help achieve our ambitious, some would say, but that's okay, let's be ambitious, our ambitious goal of 25 million new small business applications by the end of my first term. I know this is very achievable. And for anyone here who is a small business owner, works for a small business, or has a small business in your life, you understand what I'm talking about in terms of when we build up our small businesses, what that does to entire communities to lift them up economically, civically, culturally, and in every way. Small businesses, the point being, help drive our economy. And they create nearly 50% of private sector jobs, and they strengthen our middle class. And if we can harness the entrepreneurialism of the American people and unlock the full potential of aspiring founders and small business owners, I am optimistic that no one will be able to outpace us. By contrast, Donald Trump, when he was president, has been described by one of the nation's leading experts on small businesses in a piece he published in a major paper as not being good for small businesses. In fact, the title, wait, because I'm bearing the lead right now. One of the leading experts on small businesses published a piece in one of the major newspapers, and the title, I'm going to quote, "Does Donald Trump hate small businesses?" And their answer was yes. Their answer was yes. Because at the same time that Donald Trump was giving a tax cut to big corporations and billionaires, he tried to slash programs for small businesses and raise borrowing costs for them. Instead of making it easier, he actually made it more difficult for them to access capital. And that's not surprising because Donald Trump just does not prioritize small businesses. He does not seem to value, frankly, the essential role they play. But look, when I look at small business owners, I see some of the heroes of our economy, not only entrepreneurs, but as I said, civic leaders, community leaders, part of the glue that holds communities together. The third pillar of our opportunity economy is leading the world in the industries of the future and making sure America, not China, wins the competition for the 21st century. One of the recurring themes in American history is that when we make an intentional effort to invest in our industrial strength, it leads to extraordinary prosperity and security, not only for years, but for generations. Think of Alexander Hamilton having the foresight to build the manufacturing capabilities of our new nation. Think of Lincoln and the Transcontinental Railroad. Think of Eisenhower and the interstate highway system. Kennedy committing America to win the space race and spurring innovation across our society. From our earliest days, America's economic strength has been tied to our industrial strength. And the same is true today. So I will recommit the nation to global leadership in the sectors that will define the next century. We will invest in biomanufacturing and aerospace, remain dominant in AI and quantum computing, blockchain and other emerging technologies, expand our lead in clean energy innovation and manufacturing, so the next generation of breakthroughs, from advanced batteries to geothermal to advanced nuclear, are not just invented, but built here in America by American workers. And we will invest in the industries that, for example, made Pittsburgh the Steel City by offering tax credits for expanding good union jobs in steel and iron and manufacturing communities like here in Mon Valley. And across all these industries of the future, we will prioritize investments for strengthening factory towns. This is so important. For strengthening factory towns, retooling existing factories, hiring locally, and working with unions, because no one who grows up in America's greatest industrial or agricultural centers should be abandoned. And understand what that means for real people, people we know, people we care about. We don't have to abandon a strength we've known to achieve a strength that we plan. And here's what else we will do when I'm president. We will double the number of registered apprenticeships by the end of my first term. Because I almost made it a goal of mine. I think I am going to fall short, but trying to visit every IBEW local in America, because I'm going to tell you, those apprenticeship programs, those are tough duty, man. And women and everyone. They're tough duty. I mean, talk about the skills that are about engineering and science and math and just the most highly skilled folks who are in those apprenticeships and teaching there. And so one of the things we must do, understanding that and understanding the nature of that part of our educational system, is let's eliminate degree requirements while increasing skills development. And let's start with something I can do as president, was ensure that we do that for the 500,000 of federal jobs that are within our ability to make it so. Showing what is possible and then challenging the private sector to make a similar commitment to emphasizing skills and not just degrees. And we will reform our tax laws to make it easier for businesses to let workers share in their company's success. And I will challenge the private sector to do more, to lift up workers through equity, profits, and benefits, so more people can share in America's success and prosperity. And not only must we build the industries of the future in America, we must also build them faster. You know, there's a time for patience, and there's a time for impatience. That's not in Ecclesiastics, but just went off script for a minute, Mayor. But the simple truth is, in America, it takes too long and it costs too much to build. Whether it's a new housing development, a new factory, or a new bridge, projects take too long to go from concept to reality. It happens in blue states, it happens in red states, and it's a national problem. And I will tell you this, China is not moving slowly. They're not. And we can't afford to either. If we are to compete, we can't afford to either. As president, if things are not moving quickly, I will demand to know why, and I will act. I will work with Congress, workers and businesses, cities and states, community groups and local leaders to reform permitting, to cut red tape, and get things moving faster. Because, look, as I said, patience may be a virtue, but not when it comes to job creation or America's competitiveness. Many of you know the Empire State Building, you know how long it took to build that? 1 year. The Pentagon, you know how long that took? 16 months. No one can tell me we can't build quickly in our country. I've got empirical evidence. Now look, my opponent, Donald Trump, well, he makes big promises on manufacturing. Just yesterday, he went out and promised to bring back manufacturing jobs. And if that sounds familiar, it should. In 2016, he went out and made that very same promise about the Carrier plant in Indianapolis. You'll remember, Carrier then offshored hundreds of jobs to Mexico under his watch. And it wasn't just there. On Trump's watch, offshoring went up and manufacturing jobs went down across our country and across our economy. All told, almost 200,000 manufacturing jobs were lost during his presidency, starting before the pandemic hit, making Trump one of the biggest losers ever on manufacturing. Donald Trump also talked a big game on our trade deficit with China. But it is far lower under our watch than any year of his administration. While he constantly got played by China, I will never hesitate to take swift and strong measures when China undermines the rules of the road at the expense of our workers, our communities, and our companies, whether it's flooding the market with steel, inferior, or at all, unfairly subsidizing shipbuilding, or hurting our small businesses with counterfeits. Recall, Donald Trump actually shipped advanced semiconductor chips to China, which helps them upgrade their military. Understand the impact of these so-called policies that really are not about a plan for strengthening our prosperity or our security. I will never sell out America to our competitors or adversaries. Never. Never. And I will always make sure we have the strongest economy and the most lethal fighting force anywhere in the world. So at this pivotal moment, we have an extraordinary opportunity to chart a new way forward, one that positions the United States of America and all of us who are blessed to call this home for success and prosperity in the 21st century. You know, there's an old saying that the best way to predict the future is to invent it. Well, that is the story of the Steel City. That is the story of the Steel City. The city that helped build the middle class, birth America's labor movement, empower the rise of American manufacturing, and the city where Alan Newell and Herbert Simon launched the first AI research hub at Carnegie Mellon. And created entirely new fields like machine learning. And Carnegie Mellon is now home to the largest university robotics center in America. So the proud heritage of Pittsburgh, I so strongly believe, reveals the character of our nation. A nation that harnesses the ambitions, the dreams, and the aspirations of our people, seizes the opportunities before us because we see them, because we believe in them, and then invents the future. That is what we have always done. And that is what we must now do. And I know we will. I thank you all for inviting me. May God bless you. And may God bless the United States of America. Thank you all.
All right, that there was Vice President Kamala Harris making a speech at a rally in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. A lot of talk there about her economic policies, her manufacturing policies, really probably one of the most solid speeches with solid policies that we've seen from her yet in this campaign.
Indeed, she laid out a three-pronged, as I heard it, three prongs: lowering taxes on the middle class, deregulating home builders so that there's more housing units, and keeping track of deadbeat landlords. And then she has a whole host of ideas around innovation, helping with small businesses. So.
That's right. Also calling herself a capitalist, probably trying to hit back there a little at her opponents who have been calling her a socialist, talking about how she supports the middle class, small business. Also mentioning China there, saying that China is, quote, not moving slowly, and that in order to keep up with this competition against China, the U.S. has to move quickly as well.
That's right. Yeah, she seemed to address one of the knocks on the Democrats in having more red tape and bigger bureaucracy. She's saying she wants to deregulate and cut red tape to create jobs.
That's right, Carrie.
Moving on, we'll be talking about global debt and how it's reached a record high. A banking trade group says it was driven by government borrowing, which is expected to drastically increase. That and more after this break.
1 in 5 children worldwide are faced with the reality of living without food. No family dinners, no special treats, not enough energy to play. All around the world, hunger is affecting children's physical and mental health. Toddlers are suffering from acute malnutrition, which stunts their growth. Kids are forced to drop out of school so they can help support their families. Conflict, inflation, and climate have ignited the worst famine in our lifetime. And we are fed up. Fed up that hunger devours dreams. Fed up that hunger destroys joy. Fed up with the fact that hunger eats childhood. Help us feed the futures of children all over the world by visiting givetosave.org. For as little as $10 a month, you can join Save the Children as we support children and families in desperate need of our help. Now is the time to get fed up and give back. When you join the cause, your $10 monthly donation can help communities in need of life-saving treatments and nutrients, prevent children from dropping out of school, support our work with communities and governments to help children go from short-term surviving to long-term thriving. And now, thanks to special government grants, every dollar you give can multiply up to 10 times the impact. That means more food, water, medicine, and help for kids around the world. You'll also receive a free tote bag to share your support for children in need. Having your childhood eaten away by hunger is unimaginable. Get fed up. Call us now or visit givetosave.org today.
Will radical lies determine your child's future, or will timeless truths? Fathom the Good equips children with wisdom against the world. Our homeschool curriculum teaches high schoolers to think critically. We provide primary texts, original content, reasoning tools, and mentoring videos to help them transform America. Teach your children to navigate the world's woke confusion. Teach them to fathom the good.
The Kindness is Cool Video Awards are back for their second year. Record and nominate acts of kindness, both big and small, from individuals, families, and communities. Submit your videos on ganjingworld.com with the hashtag KindnessIsCool. Win a $10,000 grand prize and be featured on a New York Times Square billboard. Visit ganjingworld.com and start sharing today. Kindness is cool.
Welcome back. For today's Business Matters, we have Don Ma here with us. Don, good to see you. What's happening in the world of business today?
Yeah, good to see you as well. So let me get started right away on that. And starting with Berkshire Hathaway, has shed more shares in Bank of America. In the latest round of selling, Warren Buffett's company made more than $860 million in profit. Since July, the conglomerate had unloaded nearly 220 million shares in the country's second largest bank. So neither Buffett nor Berkshire have shared any insight into the sudden and sharp sell-off, but Berkshire continues to be Bank of America's largest stockholder, has more than 800 million shares that have an estimated value of north of $32 million. Meanwhile, Southwest Airlines service to and from Atlanta will be reduced starting next year. So the pilots union said the number of gates would be cut down beginning in April, and the flight attendants union said no jobs will be lost, but flight attendants will be asked to relocate. A memo seen by CNN indicated that, CNBC indicated that more than 300 jobs between flight attendants and pilots could be cut. Southwest released an expanded schedule that shows the cuts in Atlanta will be countered with more service in Nashville and new overnight flights to Hawaii. And about 2,000 workers have gone on strike at Hawaii's largest resort. They join hotel workers who are striking across the U.S. Unionized workers at Hilton Hawaiian Village Waikiki Beach Resort are calling for higher wages, more manageable workloads, and a reversal of COVID-era cuts. It's Hilton's largest hotel. Guests woke up yesterday morning to the sound of striking workers beating drums, whistling as well, and chanting. The unions are saying that more than 4,000 hotel workers in total are now on strike at Hilton, Hyatt, and Marriott hotels in several cities. The hotel strike comes as more than 600 nurses remain locked out of a hospital in Honolulu. after going on a one-day strike earlier this month. Now, workers for Boeing say that they felt pressured to focus on production speed over quality. That summary comes from a special investigation published Wednesday by the FAA, made public by a Senate subcommittee. In the report, employees are saying that they didn't feel trained enough to do their jobs. Boeing has been facing multiple investigations since a door plug blew off a 737 MAX flight in midair back in January. And the FAA administrator, Mike Whitaker, testified in June that the agency had taken a, quote, too hands-off approach to regulating Boeing. In a testimony to a House committee yesterday, Whitaker said the company has made strides on its production line, but he also said much work remains in repairing Boeing's safety culture. In response to the new report, Boeing says the company has taken key steps to create a safety culture that encourages employees to share their voice. Boeing also says that it's also going to continue to put into action a comprehensive plan to improve in several areas under the FAA's oversight. Now, former cryptocurrency executive Caroline Ellison was sentenced yesterday to 2 years in prison for her role in the fraud that occurred at the FTX crypto exchange, which was founded by her former boyfriend, Sam Bankman-Fried. The sentence comes even as the judge recognized her extensive cooperation with prosecutors. Take a look.
The ex-girlfriend of former FTX head Sam Bankman-Fried was sentenced to 2 years in prison Tuesday. Caroline Ellison was a top executive at the cryptocurrency exchange. Prosecutors have called its collapse one of the biggest financial frauds in U.S. history. Bankman-Fried was behind the $8 billion theft of customer funds from FTX, which he founded. The judge noted Ellison's cooperation with prosecutors in convicting Bankman-Fried last year. However, the judge said he was not comfortable with remorse and cooperation being a get-out-of-jail-free card in a case so serious. Bankman-Fried rode a boom in cryptocurrency prices during the COVID pandemic to a net worth of, according to Forbes magazine, $26 billion by October 2021. Ellison ran Alameda Research, a cryptocurrency-focused hedge fund also founded by Bankman-Fried from 2021 to 2022. His wealth evaporated when FTX collapsed in November 2022 after a flurry of customer withdrawals. Bankman-Fried was charged a month later with stealing FTX customer funds to plug losses at Alameda. Ellison testified at his trial he directed her and others to take money from FTX's customers without their knowledge. Later, she pleaded guilty to 7 felony counts of fraud and conspiracy, crimes which carry a maximum sentence of 110 years in prison. In handing down her 2-year sentence, U.S. District Judge Lewis Kaplan said Ellison's remarkable cooperation was a fundamental distinction between her and Bankman-Fried. She'd met with prosecutors about 20 times to help piece together FTX's unraveling and make their case against him. Earlier in the hearing, she said, "Not a day goes by when I don't think about all the people I hurt," and that she'd thought about leaving Alameda several times before telling the judge, "I'm sorry, I wasn't brave."
And the federal government has been repurposing old nuclear power plants into solar power plants. The Department of Energy has now chosen a second site in New Mexico for this purpose. Let's now go to NTD's Sean Marshall for the story.
The U.S. Department of Energy publicly announced that Carlsbad, New Mexico will be the second site at which an old nuclear power plant will be turned into a solar power plant. It's part of the government's Clean Up to Clean Energy initiative. They've selected NextEra Energy Resources Development, LLC, to enter negotiations for a carbon pollution-free electricity generation project. The project is to produce a minimum of 150 megawatts of solar energy along with a 100 megawatt storage system.
It's kind of a natural fit anyways to put wind and solar because that's what you need is you need a lot of land and you need transmission infrastructure. Those are the two choke points for them.
The site to be used is the Waste Isolation Pilot Plant. It's the nation's only repository for the disposal of the nuclear waste generated by atomic energy defense activities. Bennett mentions how the country is essentially stuck in a repurposing position.
The only thing that we can build nowadays because of the federal subsidies is wind and solar, and nuclear has been regulated almost out of existence. So here we are with this dichotomy of replacing a 24/7 power source with an intermittent power source on the same site.
The first planned plant restructuring started with Hecate Energy. They're working on a 1 gigawatt solar facility at Hanford, a former U.S. nuclear weapons manufacturing site in Washington state.
It makes sense as well because often that land around nuclear power plants are not utilized for other things. They aren't farmed. They're a good place to put solar versus cutting down forests or putting them on prime agricultural land.
The future solar Hanford site was a top-secret location for the Manhattan Project during World War II, where nuclear reactors produced plutonium for the world's first atomic bombs. Sean Marshall, NTD News.
Vice President Kamala Harris is raising and spending considerably more than former President Donald Trump in the battle for the White House. Their advertising strategies also differ quite notably. Here's the story.
The election, a little over a month away, and Vice President Kamala Harris has raised significantly more money than former President Trump, over $1 billion, almost double Trump's $640 million, according to Open Secrets. And Harris has spent far more, over $700 million. Trump has spent $460 million. Public records show the majority of the money is going to ads.
I intend to be a president for all Americans.
Both spending heavily on TV and online ads, such as this.
And we can chart a new way forward.
And this.
Are they better off now than they were 4 years ago?
I grew up a middle-class kid.
Records show Trump is spending heavily on mail ads, while Harris isn't. In the last month, the Harris campaign has booked over $330 million in TV ads, while Trump has booked $200 million. The Trump campaign says it doesn't spend as much because voters voluntarily consume content about him.
Meanwhile, global debt climbed to a record high of $312 trillion at the end of the second quarter. And this is based on data from the Institute of International Finance, which is a banking trade group. So the IIF said the rise was driven by borrowing in the US and China as well. The group forecasts global government borrowing to rise drastically from a current $92 trillion to $145 trillion by the end of the decade. Now, a big chunk of the projected spike was driven by energy transition costs due to climate concerns, and the report revealed that increased debt in India, Russia, and Sweden as well, while Japan and other European countries saw a notable decline. So global group OECD has slightly raised its world economic growth forecast for the year as central bank rate hikes lose their impact and inflation eases. Household incomes are getting a boost. Here are the details on that.
We have a picture of growth, of resilient growth. Inflation is coming down, trade is doing better, and we know that labor markets are easing.
The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development now projects the world economy to grow 3.2% both this year and next year. This is a nudge up for this year and unchanged for next.
We still think that growth can still do better. In order to do better, we need to revive investment, and we need to make sure that we have good policies. In terms of policy, we think that monetary policy should there's room to lower rates, but there's room also. It's important to stay prudent.
In its Outlook update, the OECD said that interest rate cuts would boost spending going forward, while consumer spending has benefited from lower inflation.
We can see that consumption is doing fairly well in the UK. And inflation continues to go down, and we continue to think that inflation will continue to go down, which will help real income. So fast wage growth will help consumption, real incomes will recover.
The Paris-based organization hiked its outlook for the UK economy amid high wage growth. As for the Eurozone, the 20-nation bloc's growth forecast is projected to nearly double next year. U.S. growth is expected to slow from this year into 2025.
The United States was not as affected by the energy crisis that it was as Europe was, but also there's some issues that we think, the structural issues that continue to make the United States a more dynamic economy. Consumption has been a lot stronger in the United States, investment stronger too, and so that is reflected on the growth rates in the United States vis-a-vis Europe.
As for the world's second biggest economy, the OECD is seeing a slowing from this year into next, as government stimulus spending in China is offset by flagging consumer demand and a real estate rut. OECD chief economist Alvaro Pereira also addressed the rising tension and disruption in the Red Sea.
We've seen an increase in shipping costs all over the world, and in fact, longer routes, but also an increase in shipping costs. Shipping costs went up by 160% in many routes. So we're talking about that. Obviously, that is has an impact on trade and has an impact also on prices.
Now, also happening is trade unions and Volkswagen company executives kicking off landmark pay talks today. They're likely to decide how aggressively Europe's biggest automaker pursues layoffs and possible factory closures in Germany. Here's more.
Trade unions and Volkswagen company executives kick off landmark pay talks Wednesday. It's likely to decide how aggressively Europe's biggest automaker pursues layoffs and possible factory closures in Germany. Tensions are running high as VW has threatened to close plants in the country for the first time. That's put it at odds with the key IG Metall union, which has vowed to fight any such moves. The union must also negotiate new labour deals for the core VW brand's 130,000 workers in Germany. Earlier this month, the automaker ended agreements that had safeguarded employment at 6 of its plants there since the mid-90s. VW argues high energy and labour costs in Germany make it harder to compete with European peers. It's also warned Chinese rivals want to grab a big chunk of the region's electric vehicle market. The VW brand's personnel chief said the division must cut costs to stay competitive. He called the firm's situation serious and said labour and management must work together on restructuring. Other German automakers feel the pain too. BMW and Mercedes-Benz both cut their profit forecasts in recent weeks due to weak demand in China.
Next, Amazon's recent and stern return to the office mandate may have shaken up remote and hybrid workers at other companies. The online retailer announced last week that employees must be in the office 5 days a week starting in January. But the tech giant's move doesn't necessarily signal an end to work flexibility. Such a stringent command could just be a cheap way for an employer to cut staff. People voluntarily leaving means not having to pay severance packages. Numbers suggest work flexibility is still common practice. A Gallup survey found in May that more than 50% of full-time employees with remote options had a hybrid schedule. And a federal judge has ruled that a New York City law mandating food delivery companies to share customer data with restaurants is unconstitutional. Yesterday's decision was a win for DoorDash, Grubhub, and Uber Eats. Now, according to the ruling, the law violated the First Amendment by improperly regulating commercial speech. New York City adopted the law in the summer of 2021 to help restaurants recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. Delivery companies were required to provide restaurants with customers' names, delivery addresses, email addresses, phone numbers, and orders as well. The companies argued that the law violated the privacy rights of customers and threatened their data security. The New York City Hospitality Alliance said the judge's decision hurts small businesses and consumers. Now, bad news, egg prices spiking yet again. They jumped by more than 28% in August compared to just 12 months ago. That's easily the biggest increase out of any food item tracked by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So the main cause for egg rising is familiar to some of you, and that is bird flu. Birds getting sick, meaning fewer eggs, so less supply and thus higher prices at the grocery store. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says bird flu has impacted nearly 101 million birds across 48 states since January 2022. So maybe that helps explain why total egg production in July fell 2.6% year over year. Now, for some, the holiday shopping season has already begun this year. Many are expected to use third-party buy now, pay later services. In fact, Adobe Analytics projects U.S. shoppers will spend a record $18.5 billion using the services. This will be for holiday purchases in the last quarter of the year. And that means companies like Klarna, for example, Afterpay, and Affirm are set to take market share from debit cards and other payment options. Experts warn that shoppers could be careful, and they should be careful when paying off their buy now, pay later purchases with credit cards. They could put themselves at risk of a potential debt cycle. And Oscar-winning filmmaker Francis Ford Coppola is back with the star-studded Fable, tying together the past, present, and future. Let's take a look.
When does an empire die? Does it collapse in one terrible moment? No. But there comes a time when its people no longer believe in it.
Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis shows a society at a breaking point or a turning point.
And when we ask these questions, when there's a dialogue about them, that basically is a utopia. For Francis, at this point in his life, to be making a film about the future as a utopia is, that he has such faith in humanity to kind of solve our problems.
For Coppola, one kind of utopia is collaboration.
When you make a film, you're not just telling people what to do, you're inviting them to collaborate together with you, and even the actors collaborate on other aspects of the film.
I just think it was always about asking questions and, just keeping that open dialogue.
My plan is a city that people can dream about.
Megalopolis.
What about those standing in your way? You like it the way it is.
He's in a very delicate position, trying to figure out how to move forward, help the people, yet still hold on to a relationship with his daughter and his wife, and to preserve what he thinks is the way it should be done.
Coppola sees a parallel between the rulers of Megalopolis and today's political leaders.
Their job is to make a world good for the people, and yet they're more concerned of who's powerful and who's not powerful. And we are in danger of losing our republic the same way Rome was.
Is this society, is this way we're living, the only one that's available to us?
And quickly onto markets. Mixed day on Wall Street today after new record highs over the past few days. Dow Jones is down 0.7%, S&P is down 0.2%, but the Nasdaq ended in the green today, although it was pretty much flat. Nvidia up 2% today. And with that, all the stories in today's Business Matters. Back to you guys. What do you think?
Thanks, Don. Those egg prices are concerning, certainly a household staple for most families.
Yeah, extremely concerning, in fact. People shelling out their savings just to buy breakfast. But what can we do, right? It's due to the bird flu. Nothing we can do about that. Maybe just to hope that eggflation unscrambles itself.
Well, I think you're exactly right, Don. Well, Carrie, I did hear you mention that you've seen some of your neighbors buying chickens.
That's true, or heading over to the farmer's market, so there are some other options for sure. So.
Hey, maybe buying chickens is the right move right now.
Indeed.
Yep.
Moving on to international news, China fired an intercontinental ballistic missile into the Pacific Ocean, its first such test in 4 decades. That as the the UN General Assembly was underway in New York. We'll have that and more after the break.
I'm Ilka. I live with my daughter and with my grandchildren. There's a sense of comfort that comes with eating a good meal. We try to make the most, of what we have. We have rent to pay, and then there are lights and there are gas. And while my daughter and I both work, it still just doesn't seem like there's enough to go around sometimes.
Every day, millions of our neighbors face hunger, including 1 in 5 children, and food costs keep rising. Please call or go online right now to join Feeding America with your gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day. Your monthly support can fill plates with nutritious food for families across the country and in your community, thanks to a nationwide network of food banks and volunteers.
If you were over and playing with us, you were part of our family and you were going to eat. A real cook can take nothing and make something.
No one should ever have to wonder if they will have enough to eat, and our neighbors are working hard to feed their families every day. Call or go online now. Visit helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month. 98% of donations go directly to help millions of people facing hunger from coast to coast and in your own community. Use your credit card and you'll get this exclusive canvas grocery bag as a thank you for joining hands with people across America to help end hunger.
Some of the lessons that I hope that my family will take, it is important to treat people the way that you want to be treated. I have carried on the tradition of loving people through food.
Please call right now or go online to make a monthly gift at helpfeedingamerica.org. Your support helps our neighbors bring food home to their families.
Do you know that Cars for Compassion is the best way to donate your car? Through this non-profit program, you can not only help us keep bringing the world independent and daringly truthful journalism, but also significantly impact the life of somebody who needs a vehicle. The Epoch Times fights misinformation and big tech censorship by being independent and unbound to advertisers. Every single contribution to Cars for Compassion is a powerful endorsement of our unwavering mission. All you have to do is go to carsforcompassion.org and let us know about your car, and we'll schedule a pickup time and email you a tax-deductible receipt. To do this, just click the link below, support truth, compassion, and hope. Donate your car right now at www.carsforcompassion.org.
Thanks for staying with us. Lawmakers are set to vote on a new government funding bill, aka a continuing resolution. If successful, it would avert a government shutdown. Lawmakers are working for an October 1st deadline. Our Washington correspondent, Luis Martinez, joins us live from the Capitol. Luis, good to see you. Tell us, why are we having this vote instead of a regular full-year budget?
Well, the short answer is because Republicans and Democrats did not reach an agreement and did not pass all 12 appropriation bills to fund government through fiscal year 2025, as is the regular process. Instead, we're seeing this continuing resolution that would extend current levels of funding. So the budget from 2024 would extend it until December 20th. Let's listen to House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries pointing fingers at Republicans for this impasse.
Later on this afternoon, we will have a continuing resolution that is before the American people that will keep the government open, prevent a reckless Republican shutdown, and make sure that we meet the needs of the American people over the next few months.
So there we saw House Minority Leaders pointing fingers at Republicans for including policy riders and conservative priorities in their appropriation bills. But truth be told, House Republicans did manage to pass 6 out of the 12 appropriation bills. They managed to authorize funding for 70% of government, and the Senate, which is led by Democrats, did not pick up a single of the bills approved by the House, and actually the Senate did not vote on any of their own bills on the Senate floor. So we have an impasse. Republicans, Democrats did not reach an agreement, and now we're seeing this continuing resolution vote today.
All right, Luis, the House votes on this today. So if it does pass, when are we going to see the Senate pick it up?
Well, that's also something very interesting. Yesterday, Tuesday night, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer received unanimous consent from the Senate to have a vote on the continuing resolution once it passes in the House, if it does pass in the House as it is expected. It's also very interesting that they will only have 2-hour debate in the Senate once that bill reaches the Senate floor, and no amendments will be allowed. This is not common because the Senate is actually known for its deliberation, for having the filibuster. Most of us reporters were expecting probably to see Senator Rand Paul have one of his extended speeches in Congress opposing this CR. This time we won't see amendments, and we'll only see 2 hours of debate in the Senate. So it is likely that tonight, before midnight, we might have a bill to fund government at least till December 20th.
And how might today's vote impact this general election that's coming ever closer?
Of course, well, one of the most interesting things that we need to look out after the vote in the House floor is whether Republican leadership managed to get a majority of the Republican majority in the House. If Speaker Mike Johnson manages to get the majority of the Republican majority, it bodes well for his intentions to run for Speaker of the House next year. If he does not get the majority of Republican votes like he did not receive during the Ukraine aid vote a few months ago, then that would signal a different direction for when there's a Speaker race in January. Also, we need to highlight that Republicans that control the House of Representatives did not manage to reduce the government's budget, the spending levels. Instead, actually $231 million were added to the budget to go to DHS for Secret Service operations, and $3 billion were approved last week to go to Veterans Affairs. So it's not good for Republican leadership that had promised to reduce budget, but also Democrats did not manage to push any of their priorities in this clean CR that would go through December 20th. Back to you.
All right, Luis Martinez reporting there from D.C. Thank you for the report. Moving on, former President Trump warning Iran of severe consequences if it harms a presidential candidate. This comes as the U.S. government is intensely tracking threats targeting U.S. officials. NTD's Iris Tao has more from Trump's remarks today in Mint Hill, North Carolina.
In an economic speech here in the suburb of Charlotte, North Carolina, former President Trump responded to threats posed by Iran by saying that if he were the president, he would tell Iran and other countries that if they harm a leading U.S. presidential candidate,
we are going to blow your largest cities and the country itself to smithereens. We're going to blow it to smithereens. You can't do that. And there would be no more threats.
It comes as Secretary of State Antony Blinken said on Wednesday that the U.S. government is intensely tracking an ongoing threat by Iran against current and former U.S. officials.
So it's something we take very, very seriously.
The Trump campaign said on Tuesday that Trump has been briefed by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence about Iran's continued assassination threats against him. The campaign says all agencies are working to ensure Trump is protected and the election is free from interference. And Trump on Wednesday responded on Truth Social saying big threats on my life by Iran. The entire U.S. military is watching and waiting. During a speech, he said he's not backing down.
Around the world, our enemies are desperate to prevent Donald Trump from returning to the White House because they know I will make America great again. They don't want that.
And Trump also used that to emphasize the need for what he calls strong leadership in the U.S. to deter such threats. He also praised Democrats for working with Republicans to approve a bill in Congress that would ensure that he and Vice President Kamala Harris receive the same level of Secret Service protection as a sitting president. And later this week, Trump will also campaign in Michigan and Wisconsin. Reporting from Mint Hill, North Carolina, Iris Tao, NTD News.
The Trump campaign has just confirmed that former President Donald Trump will hold a rally on October 5th in Butler, Pennsylvania. That, in case you forgot, is the exact town where he was shot in an assassination attempt.
That's right. His campaign said, quote, President Trump's return to Butler will mark his first visit to the site of the attack since he was struck by an assassin's bullet on July 13th, but was saved in what the world has recognized as an act of divine providence.
Moving on, China has fired a missile carrying a dummy warhead into the Pacific Ocean earlier today.
It comes after President Biden called out the Chinese regime for its aggressive military behavior in the region. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley has more.
The Chinese regime launched a missile into the Pacific Ocean into open waters this morning. It was carrying a dummy warhead and was not targeting any particular nation. Now, this is the first time China's fired an intercontinental ballistic missile since 1980. This follows President Biden's final address to the United Nations in New York City, where he called out the Chinese regime's military aggression in the South China Sea.
The United States is unabashed, pushing back against unfair economic competition, against military coercion of other nations in the South China Sea, and maintaining peace and stability across the Taiwan Straits, and protecting our most advanced technologies so they cannot be used against us or any of our partners.
China has been raising security concerns for the U.S. and its allies in the Pacific in recent months, whether it's ramming Philippine Coast Guard vessels or blocking them from completing resupply missions, sending a spy plane into Japanese airspace, or holding naval military drills near Taiwan. Earlier this week, President Biden met with the so-called Quad leaders in Delaware. Now, these are leaders from Japan, India, Australia, and Biden was caught on a hot mic telling them that China is testing them with its aggressive behavior.
China continues to behave aggressively, testing us all across the region. And it's true in the South China Sea, the East China Sea, South Asia.
Now, this obviously leaves an open question as to what message this missile launch is sending from China. Now, this comes almost a year after a Chinese spy balloon was caught flying over sensitive military installations in the U.S. And of course, the U.S. military shot it down soon after its discovery. And this comes as President Biden is meeting with Vietnam's General Secretary on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly in New York. Biden visited Vietnam last year, where the two nations' leaders secured deals on semiconductors. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Jack Bradley, NTD News.
Helene has now strengthened into a hurricane, with forecasts predicting landfall on Florida's Gulf Coast this week. Evacuation orders are expanding in several counties as the storm intensifies. NTD's Christina Corona tells us more.
The hurricane is expected to bring life-threatening storm surges, damaging winds, and torrential rainfall across Florida and the Southeast. Helene is on track to become the most powerful storm to strike the U.S. in over a year. Helene continues to strengthen as it moves past Mexico, heading toward the U.S. Gulf Coast. It reached Category 1 hurricane status Wednesday morning and is expected to strike Florida's Big Bend late Thursday. A storm surge warning is in effect for the Florida Keys and most of Florida's west coast, with life-threatening flooding expected over the next 36 hours and surges potentially reaching up to 15 feet. According to the National Hurricane Center, as of 11 a.m. Eastern Time Wednesday, Helene was about 500 miles southwest of Tampa, Florida, with maximum sustained winds of 80 miles per hour. The storm has prompted evacuations and school closures, with the state issuing both voluntary and mandatory evacuation orders across 13 counties. Residents along Florida's Gulf Coast are preparing by filling sandbags ahead of the storm.
I'm worried about the storm surge, the water that could be 4 to 8 feet in my house, and I lose everything. We're packing up these sandbags today. I'm so grateful for the city for providing the sand. We came out here and we're actually having a really good time getting prepped with everybody and getting input on how everybody is prepping.
You know, I love helping out people, especially older people that can't do the hard work. So just here for the people and to try to bring the community together just a little.
Emergency declarations have also been issued in Georgia and North Carolina. Former Hurricane John reformed as a tropical storm on Wednesday, threatening Mexico's western coast after causing 2 fatalities on the southern Pacific coast late Monday. Helene is expected to become a massive and potential destructive Category 3 hurricane. Forecasters warn it could reach major hurricane status before making landfall along Florida's Gulf Coast late Thursday. Christina Corona, NTD News.
Coming up, a shocking encounter for Motley Crue drummer Tommy Lee and his wife.
One of their dogs was snatched by a coyote. We'll have that story for you after this break.
The 7th NTD International Piano Competition will take place at the Kaufman Music Center in New York City. Pianists from around the world will come together to revive the great piano masterpieces. Join us on this uplifting journey. The semifinals, finals, and the winner's concert will be open to audiences and live streamed from October 17th to the 19th. Get tickets now at 212-501-3330.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Legal Help Center. This is where we have professionals standing by to answer your questions regarding personal injury. So if you've been injured in an accident that was not your fault, like a car accident or a slip and fall, we can help. As a matter of fact, we are here to help. So take that first step and call the number on your screen right now. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much your case is potentially worth. Thank you for joining us, everyone. I'm Gina Belich, here with TV anchor and spokesman Tom Mustin. So, Tom, you've been in television for over 20 years. You've participated in a number of big events. Tell everyone watching at home what makes the Legal Help Center so special and what it means for you to be here with us in the studio.
Well, Gina, first let me thank you for having me join you here today. Now, as far as who should call in right now, the answer is anyone who's been injured in an accident that was not their fault, because when you give us a call, you're going to speak with a live person, not some automated greeting or computer message, but an actual person who's ready to help. You'll receive a free consultation. You can get all your questions answered, and more importantly, find out how much your case is potentially worth.
Now, this is a service to you, the viewers, offering you a free consultation and getting you access to legal help. So if you've been injured in an accident that was not your fault, or you know someone recently in an accident, give us a call right now. You'll speak with a live agent, not some automated greeting, but an actual person right now who's ready to help you.
Like Gina said, if you've been injured in an accident, like a car accident or a slip and fall, the team is available to help. So take that first step. We have agents available for you right now. They'll answer any questions you have, let you know how much your case is potentially worth. Take care, everyone, and thank you for watching.
Will radical lies determine your child's future, or will timeless truths? Fathom the Good equips children with wisdom against the world. Our homeschool curriculum teaches high schoolers to think critically. We provide primary texts, original content, reasoning tools, and mentoring videos to help them transform America. Teach your children to navigate the world's woke confusion. Teach them to fathom the good.
Fans of Super Mario, The Legend of Zelda, and Game Boys will soon be able to gain insight into one of the world's most renowned game makers.
A new museum by Japanese firm Nintendo is opening next week, showcasing the company's history. The museum, located in Japan's Uji, underscores its many evolutions, like the iconic Wii console and handheld Game Boy. Visitors will also see lesser-known products, such as the Mama Berica baby stroller and the Coppolis printer, in a push from Nintendo to expand beyond its core gaming business. The creator of Super Mario says the museum is intended to deepen understanding of the company, which was founded in 1889 as a maker of playing cards before becoming the global gaming giant that it's now known as. While game enthusiasts will likely try and secure tickets to the new museum, it might be harder than it looks.
If possible, I would like to go and visit the museum, but I heard that people had to wait for 2 months to get a ticket. I think it would be difficult to get in, even for locals.
But there's little doubt many will wait it out to see mustachioed plumber Mario in action.
Motley Crue drummer Tommy Lee and his wife Brittany witnessed one of their dogs being snatched by a coyote at their California home Tuesday. Thankfully, their dog is now safe, but the frightening episode was captured on the Ring security video you see here. The couple had let the dogs out when their dog Nina was taken by a coyote. The video shows the wild predator running at the two dogs, grabbing one of them and then taking off with it. The rocker's wife wrote on Instagram that she was able to rescue the pup. Thank goodness for Nina.
Yeah, Brittany Furlan, a force to be reckoned with in her backyard, not letting a coyote mess with her pets.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. Coyotes are usually pretty afraid of humans and, you know, human houses, I guess, properties. It's interesting that it came so close to get a dog.
Yeah, quick thinking. I know that most people's pets are really part of the family, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a dog person. I'm so glad she got her dog back. All right, thank you for watching NTD Newsroom today.
Join Tiffany Meyer for the NTD Evening News at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific. I'm Carrie Dunst.
And I am Fiona G. See you tomorrow.